We're at the halfway point here today in Houston, and so far today, being a little bit of a surprise where many people thought that Atlanta would be taking over Paris, but instead, we had the opposite. Paris looking very, very good.
Yeah, off the back of a huge performance from XC, I'd love to see that passion. He's such a humble, calm player, but it doesn't look like that when he's in the serve.
Not at all, and if you're a Paris fan, there's a lot to be excited about, but of course, if you're a fan of the two teams that are playing here next, there is even more to be excited about, where we have the Spitfire back into fray, a team right now that overall up and down, but definitely came out strong yesterday.
Yeah, able to get the win, but both teams, as you said, looking very, very mortal, although for me, it was Florida just getting absolutely boshed on by the New York Excelsior yesterday. That was totally brutal to watch.
Yeah, unfortunately for Florida, they had to go up against New York when New York decided, hey, we want to bring out our truly best roster, and it was like running into a brick wall.
Yeah, most teams bring out their subs, and you think they won't be so strong. New York looking like a totally different beast, monstrous team. You saw all these eats coming in from Hotba. He was also such a high-impact player, but just so many great plays coming out across the board from New York Excelsior. Florida, you know, they did their best, but just not able to come online in time.
It was an interesting match cast, too, because when we never looked at it as, hey, Florida's playing badly. In fact, Florida had a lot of bright spots. This bomb from Gargoyle, of course, one of the biggest. Florida looked good, it just, their opposition looked way better. Of course, Spitfire yesterday, really the masters right now this season of giving teams hope before taking it away.
And Diva, such an impact character this patch. It's going to be exciting to see Bernard and Gargoyle face off, although usually it's going to be an indirect battle. Who can eat the enemy blizzards? Who has the better self-destructs to combo on their team's control? You know, that's so important this series, and you can see these players are actually quite evenly matched.
Bernard, very, very good. Back into the fray this weekend. Missed him last week in favor of Cleston, who also had a pretty good showing, I'd say. But Gargoyle, a player that many sort of put up as one of the very shining parts of the Florida Mayhem.
Big differences here. Just seeing Bernard eating a lot more ultimates, and in this case, it's pretty much all going to be that Blizzard from May, but he is dying a little bit more in the process. Maybe he's putting himself at risk, being in the front line, looking for those plays, showing that you can be stylistically different and still find your footing in Overwatch League.
When we talk about key parts, you got to talk about Glister, the hit scan hero for the Spitfire, and if any team is up against the Spitfire, this is the one player you got to game plan against.
He's just so sharp on the McCree, on the Widowmaker, on the Hanzo. Whatever you need him to play this patch, he is more than prepared. Definitely one of those key threats for London, Florida. They're going to have to find an answer for him if they want to take this match.
And Glister, so far, very versatile, whether it be on the Widow, whether it be on the McCree, a consistent threat. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Mayhem deal with him here today. So far, any game he's been in, he has been the X Factor. But for London, they are ready to head on out. Let's hear it for the London Spitfire.
Crowd not too happy with the London Spitfire after yesterday, but you can't argue with the W. That's what they were able to deliver in our last match that we saw them. Florida, of course, struggling a lot harder, but against very, very different opponents. So I think this match could be a lot closer than many expect.
On one hand, I wouldn't expect the hometown crowd to be super thrilled with the Spitfire, but on the same note, hey, if they beat our team, it looks a little bit better if they beat other teams. You're like, they're beating everyone.
Yeah, that's definitely the narrative that they're going to want to push here. But I think either one of these teams could really come out on top. In fact, I do want to give the edge. In my mind, though, it is in favor of London. I just feel that Karayan, he's been great on the Rhine for Florida, but J-Mac just looked totally dominant in their last series. Krillin as well, just absolutely dropping sleeps on cooldown, it felt like.
And of course, we have their opposition. They're back. It's the Florida Mayhem. Florida definitely looking for a rebound here today after going up against what can only be described as a raid boss in the New York Excelsior. And London, I feel like right now they're a team that every team should be scared of, but on the same note, every team should think that they can beat them. And for Florida, I can't imagine that they are not having very high hopes here today.
Yeah, both these teams solidly in the middle of the pack right now, trying to get those wins, distinguish themselves over one another. And like you were saying yesterday, ZP, it's so important to remember getting that momentum early in the season, getting those wins matters just as much as those final games at the end of the season.
Now, one of the changes here today, as opposed to yesterday, is that Florida opened up with Fate. running a very Winston-heavy strategy. Today, we got Karayan in the starting lineup. You think that means that the era of Winston maybe not happening here today for Florida?
You know, we've seen some mixed success with Winston, but it certainly seems to be a high-risk play. I'd expect to see both of these teams playing the confidence game on that most dominant meta, the Rhine Diva. That's fully what I predict here, and it's so important to get out ahead on that matchup. You know it's going to come out time and time again throughout the series, so if you can get that first map win playing the composition, you kind of assert your dominance. We have the strategy down better than you do, and that can have a real mental impact on the other team going into those later maps.
Because one way or another, I think you're completely right. Florida would be swapping after map 1 if Fate wasn't here. It'd still be back to Karayan. But today, they just went, hey, that map 1 strategy didn't work yesterday. Let's just run the meta, see where it goes. And I think you're absolutely right about the mindset here from Mayhem.
Yeah, tank line for Florida has been, in my opinion, really their strongest suit. Gargoyle and Karayan coming together. Really, really effective stuff from them, you know, finding that the opportunities to be aggressive, the moments where you need to just defend and secure your advantage.
Map 1 to kick it off, it's going to be Ilios this time around. And we'll see what London comes out of the gate. London at times can be a bit of a slow starter, or at times they can start off really quickly and fall off. Hard to say which London we'll see here today, where you can change all the players on London, but you can't do much about just the specter of chaos that surrounds the team.
They like to be aggressive, they like to take control of the game, and that's how modern Overwatch is played. It's all about aggression, getting in control of the map, forcing those cooldowns out early. You need to take those micro trades for positioning and cooldowns to get ahead of them, and in that regard, that allows you to get those ultimates up first, that allows you to take control of those capture points, and from there, you're at a major strategic advantage. In order to come back from a down situation, it's pretty much on superstar heroics to come out, which, you know, everyone is so talented in the Overwatch League, you can't rely on outskilling your opponents.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned heroics, and I think about Florida here. If I'm dealing with London, I almost think you go into this expecting London to have a slight edge in the poke game, and you try and take the fights a little bit more aggressively. London, give Glister less time to work around things, although it's an interesting look here. I'm not sure I believe it until the gates open.
Yeah, we'll see what they actually end up going with. Both teams electing to not bring out the Widow, at least so far. We've seen a lot of Widow historically, but I feel that it hasn't really panned out for anyone who's tried it on Ruins. It seems like it's just a little too easy to out-rotate, or at least New York Excelsior made it look that way. Although Glister onto the Widow, proving me wrong, feeling confident in his headshotting ability. Really the question for Florida now is, can they survive? If they can just avoid getting picked off, they should out-damage in the long fight.
Florida, it's going to be all about avoiding sightlines right now. Best shot you can make Glister take is one where he has no shot at all. And for now, look at the shields, doesn't quite hit it on the outside. The Mayhem, they're going directly to the point here, Jake.
Yeah, and once they're able to control this low ground in the corner point, that really gives them a nice trench in which to hide from that Widow's fire. And, you know, they're not really going to be able to trade effectively close range against McCree.
And that's exactly what Florida is playing for, and they get first capture. London cannot go directly onto the point. They're waiting for Glister to get pickoff. Florida doing a really nice job now, Jake, of avoiding the sight lines and pushing London back. Almost getting the May.
Ooh, almost. They forced Maywall trade, and they should be able to regroup on point here. A lot of players on Florida dropping low, but trading damage in the process, so it's not going strongly one way or the other, although a Nano Rhine from JMac could clear out this corner.
Speaking of Nanos, we got Karayan moving forward. BQB finds Krillin on the outskirts, the flank behind the wall. And after London, do you swap off the Widow?
Glister only on 50% charge the Infrasight. That means he's not really finding the headshots, not really even finding any chance to poke away at those tanks. Not able to get that Infrasight up. It makes a big difference, but that's exactly the type of pickoff they need. Yaki down, no Maid. This is time for London to strike.
London was waiting for that one pickoff. They had faith in Glister, and now they have an opportunity. It's 6-on-5. Deadeye up from BQB, trying to buy time. Gets JMac, but ends up falling in the process. But that's not bad. It's still going to make it hard for London to get on the point without a Rhyme.
Yeah, no main tank is a critical loss, but without BQB, it should be an opening for London to start poking aggressively. Not much poke coming back on the other side. Very interesting, though. BQB onto the Widowmaker, going to be taking the duel as he comes out of spawn. Long range battle going to be activating very soon.
It might be free, too. If London doesn't notice it, they still might think he's on the McCree, so BQB might get one early shot here as he hunts down Glister on the other side. Gargoyle, though, a little bit of danger. Getting poked on down. London taking a more aggressive position. Halfway on the point. Gargoyle gonna be forced to self-destruct after losing the back. Karayan shatter down, puts Bernard to the ground, shatter the other way, doesn't do as much. Spitfire starting to make some more space on the point, and they get the flip.
That's huge to get the flip there, starting to get that control up. They should even get one more fight if they do end up losing point later in the round. But now they do have control, although it does cost Glister the Infrasight. BQB, in theory, should be able to get his up on advantage up next. So that could create a big difference in this Widow duel and help enable the retake. But so far, pretty even ult charge for the rest of the teams. Not too much of an advantage one way or the other.
Florida bought a lot of time there, too. 84% to 25. They're going to have multiple attempts here, Jake.
Yeah, definitely. But, you know, we've seen how easily that can go wrong. One pickup from Glister can really send Florida packing.
We'll see if Glister can do it one more time. Was able to take down Yaki early in the last fight. Although, to Yaki's credit, Yaki has a Blizzard ready to go here. So Florida likely to be playing around that. And now they're on to the point.
Struggle is it's so difficult to initiate with Blizzard with D.Va on the case, but he manages to get it in, and it's exactly what they needed. On to J-Mac, forcing Sweet to sit in the ice block.
They're trying to save J-Mac. They had to throw the nano on just so he could survive. BQB, though, is hunted down by Sanguinar on the outskirts. The Widow pressure gone for Mayhem, and soon the rest of Mayhem's going to follow. Not quite the initiation they were looking for.
And that fight just took so long. The nano from Krillin keeps J-Mac alive despite all the control laid into him. And now London about to equalize on the capture pressure. Florida, this is pretty much going to be their last clean attempt at point.
So Florida starting out really well with the McCree. They decided to go Widow on their own, and now they're putting all their faith in the BQB. BQB, the Infrasight is up. Is he going to be able to find Glister here? Early shatter from J-Mac gets nothing. And now the Mayhem, the punish. J-Mac caught out position. Panic shatters, and now it's London in a very tough spot.
That's a pretty questionable risk to take from J-Mac. Enemy Infrasight's online. They know exactly where he is. At least Glister has his Infrasight, but he's going to need to find a pick here to equalize, or else it's going to be all Florida all over this point.
Florida on to the point. Soon to get a recap, perhaps. London right now just trying to delay, waiting for J-Mac to get back into the fight. Bear in mind, we still have the Widow duel to look at here between the two. Glister on one side, BQB on the other. Both teams fighting on the ground. J-Mac back to fight from very, very low. Burner eating a lot of damage, same as Sweep. Florida doing far better in the Pokemon, but Ryan a little bit forward, gets caught by the bomb. And now the Blizzard is out from London. In London, it's off Bernard, who's turning this entire fight around.
That high ground positioning not working out at all for Florida Mayhem supports. It's London in full control here, doing a great job contesting the point. Karayan went so aggressive, but the nano from Krillin onto J-Mac proves too much, isolates him against the wall with the D.Va bomb, and there's nothing he can do from there. London starting to feel some energy there. That was looking a little bit rough for them to start, but they had faith in Glister. Even I was starting to get worried, but clearly London was not. Glister produces, and they're able to convert into a round.
The one confusing thing to me, which I'd love for you to explain, and this is a true, confusing question, is that they were doing fine on the McCree there. Florida had plenty of time to work with. Glister was not getting a whole ton done aside from that one May pick. Why swap things to the Widow when you were seemingly doing so well?
Well, the big difference maker is on the mid fight, that Widow's not going to have that free reign to position wherever she wants. You're going to be able to get to point relatively free on the McCree, but trying to retake on McCree can be a different story. The enemy Widow could be anywhere, and she's essentially uncontested as you're trying to retake. So in that situation, I think it's not so crazy to go to the Widow to take the duel, but in this case, it goes towards London. Very interesting matchup, though. The Somber Doom coming out from Florida. Should be exciting. See if they can make it work.
Doom, of course, we saw Blase make a show of it yesterday here on Ilios. We'll see if Yaki can do much of the same. BQB looking for Hex, poke on the outside. And now Yaki has to decide when to go in, but this is essentially giving first control to London in all likelihood.
It's possible, although London went to the point very early, so that's a lot of time for Yaki to poke. There's one, that's the Moira.
They got Krillin down, they're trying to contest beforehand. London still gets first control of the point, but Florida in a far better situation to take the first fight. And this is a trade you'd always love to have. Yeah, you lose a little bit percent, but Yaki makes it work, and Florida soon to be on the board.
10%, no big deal. It's totally worth the trade. You charge so many of these dive ultimates up, and you're going to be in dominant control of the map as London has to retake. London, I feel like that's a bit of a strategic mistake, going to point so early with the Reaper May. In the past, we've seen them wait in that T-junction, hanging out by the Mega Pack until the point opens, but because they go so early, Yaki has all the time in the world to set up the punch, and it pays off big time.
On me. Florida holding back, now ahead in progress. You have to look, now they're going to set them down. Brian moving in immediately. Gargoyle, though, heavily focused, but still might not matter. Florida able to deal with Krillin again, just easily focused down. And Florida, easy counter dive.
That was all Gangnam Jin there. Huge nano onto Yaki, allows him to go totally aggressive, but the Bionade onto the Moira is the really impact play from the Ana there, with Moira so reliant on her self-healing. When she can't utilize that, she's really not got much to offer.
So it's been a little bit tough for London, where I feel like Krillin has been getting focused down first every fight so far this round.
Yeah, well, targeting that flex support is exactly what you aim to do with this Somber Doomfist dive. Now it's BQB setting up with the EMP. This could be rough. London, they're going to have to bait this out somehow, sending J-Mac in alone, but Krillin doesn't get baited out. He's playing this nice and slow.
Gets early hack on the Reinhardt, but gets hacked himself on the other side. BQB down, and the EMP didn't even come out.
Oh, he actually lost it there, trying to bring it out. That's so high impact, but Yaki striking back, doesn't want to give up control at this point, even 5v6. Karayan with the Primal as well, disrupting the Phalanx from London.
Yaki still in it. Krillin gets taken out by Karayan. Florida fighting, the bomb does its work, and Yaki on the cliff doing so. Even with the disaster in the EMP, Florida still hangs on.
And Karayan just hopping back onto the map. No trouble for a Winston there. What a huge impact play from Shui, canceling BQB's EMP out, but it all comes to nothing and not really working out for the London Spitfire despite that big pickoff. And Gangnam Jin, he's got another nano boost. We saw how devastating that was last time.
Also, low-key, Glister does have a Death Blossom. See if something can happen on it soon. Florida in a much better spot here thus far. Glister moving forward. Death Blossom on a whim and a prayer. Pooped away, does not get much. Meanwhile, Yaki on their side. Nano onto him, looking for anything. Krillin falls again. BQB all over him with Gangnam Jin. And now Florida looking to try and put this one away, but Shui is an EMP. London's still fighting on the point, and Florida might have to back up for now.
Chris finding being booped off rather by Sanguinar. Such an impact play, get the Brig off the map. The rally not able to come online, but I will say when this rally does come back next fight, London are going to be in big trouble. Rally is an absolutely devastating ult in this dive mirror. Reaper really struggles to deal with that armor. It neutralizes some of his self-healing, and it's just so effective at swarming point.
Mayhem looking to retake, looking to force around 3 here on map 1. Gangnam Jin on the top, reasonably well protected. The rally is out. Krillin responding with the Coalescence. Now we'll see if Florida goes in on first. They're waiting for the EMP here, Jake. One has to think BQB very, very close. Brian, though, hacked. Gargoyle taken down. And now this EMP can be done under duress. And Shui drops EMP first. BQB does not have the ability to respond.
All surviving players on the Florida Mayhem hacked up by that EMP. It's a perfect closer to the fight for Shui, but it cost them a lot of crucial ultimates, and Florida able to bank up so many of theirs. It only cost them a rally. That's all they invest into that last team fight. Chris gonna switch over to Lucio, add that mobility, given that he won't be able to charge an ultimate before the end of the round. Both Sombers touching each other, they're revealing each other's location, but it's BQB with the EMP. He's much more dangerous right now. J-Mac, it might struggle to get his Primal off if he can get hacked up early.
This is all about BQB. It needs to be a good EMP. It's been a struggle all round long. This is gonna be the time. Yaki already has the nano. The EMP comes out and does very little on the other end. In fact, Yaki ends up falling in. This is a bit of a problem for the Mayhem. They're in trouble. The Spitfire hanging on, Burner under pressure. Meanwhile, where's Glister? The Death Blossom set to go. Sanguinar's out. 5-on-5 between the two teams. Glister waiting. Diva in his face, going the other way. No, it's not enough. The Florida Mayhem win on the outskirts. And it looks like they've turned this one around.
Karayan just having so much more impact with his Primal, able to not only disrupt the enemy backline, but finding kills on his own. Meteor strike from Yaki looking to clean up. Sanguinar commits the sound barrier, but can't make it to point. Florida Mayhem close out that round, looking really well practiced on the Somber Doom. It works out way better this time with Karayan in the ranks.
And it worked out well even with what I would consider some pretty serious issues in EMP usage coming up from BQB, where it was getting delayed a long time, and then when it got used, it didn't get very high impact. So I think it speaks a lot to the quality of Doomfist play coming in from Yaki and really the rest of the Florida squad.
Yeah, for me, it was all Karayan and Yaki that round, as well Gangnam Jin doing a great job on the Ana. Chris standing by his side on the Brigida for the most part, just making that big difference, you know, finding those sleeps to deny the enemy pressure, finding those nades to shut down the enemy Moira. London, though, coming out on the Pharah. We saw this so effective against the Houston Outlaws, but BQB is on the McCree, the natural predator of a Pharah. We'll see if Shui can have the same success. I think it'll be much more difficult against McCree.
This was the Outlaws killing strategy yesterday from London. Florida, though, coming in with a very different response, opening up with McCree to start the round. We'll see if BQB has the answer that the Outlaws lacked. And Glister, just takes an icicle to the head. It's gonna make the rest of the fight pretty easy for Florida.
BQB taking such an aggressive position, flanking in. Oh, almost got countered by his own May, but he's so sharp, even without the flash.
Yeah, a little bit of a miscommunication there. I'd say Glister did get rezzed up in the fray, but down J-Mac, it still makes things pretty tough right now for the Spitfire. Shui, though, in the air, and so far BQB not really looking at Shui.
Shui needs to find a pick, but he just has to play so defensively. Gargoyle able to chase down Sanguinar. That just sends Shui packing. There's no way for him to be effectively healed up by a Moira. And oh, he's even taking a nap thanks to Gangnam Jin.
Yeah, it's a nap away from the action, so he'll probably live, but does precious little about the point as the Mayhem do get first control. And I think for London here, might have served you well yesterday, but is it time to swap off the Pharah?
In my mind, the Pharah really only worked so successfully because Houston were running a dive strategy of their own. McCree just dominates Pharah in this patch. It's way too quick to burn you out. You see Shui just has to play so defensive. He knows if he goes down, things are looking even worse, but every time he peeks, he's taking shots to the face.
Shui out on the outskirts right now, but under quite a bit of pressure, giving quite a bit of respect to BQB on the other side. And right now, biding time as time ticks away. Yaki and Gargoyle under danger, and BQB gets J-Mac. Got a little bit too close to Sun, but Shui off the backside with 3! An excellent opening for Shui that gives London a much better advantage. A boot on top.
The quadra kill, make it 5 for Shui. He's making that Pharah work, and what great team play from the London Spitfire. The Matrix on the barrage, the Coalescence coming in as well, keeping that Pharah up through any amount of pressure. It was a great bait from the rest of the team, keeping the pressure off Shui so we could make that 5K happen.
Now this seems to be way better for London too, because now going to the next fight, Pharah does better from the defensive positioning.
Yeah, Pharah definitely is strong, but it's still very possible for McCree to poke you out on the retake. It's far from a free engagement here on the defense, especially with double support ulti available.
London approaching from the side, trying to get BQB in danger, nearly getting him early, and still the pressure is on. Barrier from Chris in response to that pressure. London moving forward. J-Mac though frozen, can't use the primal. In fact, he tried the primal and still fell.
Oh no, massive damage boost on BQB, supercharger and nano boost. This is a very dangerous Cowboy.
BQB in control, Florida about to get the point once more, and J-Mac swapped onto the Hammond. Feel like that was just to get back to that point in time. Probably about to be swapped back.
And Yaki once again with the headshots. That's why Shui's been hiding all game long. McCree can just chop you down so quickly, but I wanted to highlight Yaki being such a difference maker, finding those headshots on May. That's not exactly what you expect against Dive. It can be very difficult to find those pickoffs. Usually you're just looking to freeze the main tank when you can, but Yaki doing much more than that. Glister gonna get off the Tracer, fearing those icicles.
And this is interesting though on the other side. J-Mac staying on the wrecking ball, and we do have a pause.
Still though, this is a great moment to discuss the strategy of the game. This is a moment where dive retaking is at its weakest. You don't have the map control. You first have to reacquire map control, then look for kills, then look to make the pressure happen. And they don't have like a big bank of ultimates or anything to rely on. Glister making that switch. It's really gonna be on Glister and Shui here. I feel like this Widow has to produce to justify itself. Although with the Orisa, her shield's not gonna be up 24/7. There will be limits to how much she can protect those sidelines.
And that's one of the key changes that came in right before the season started, where barriers, they do break a little bit more easy now. So even if you have them up, there's more windows for DPS to come in and really make their mark known. But I do like this round right now. What is it about Well that's caused us to see such a divergence in strategy relative to some of the other maps in the game?
Well, I think the biggest reason is the Well, right? It's that big hole in the center of the point. It really prices up those boop abilities, Orisa's Halt, anything that could potentially activate environmental kill. I mean, there's no other map in the game with a death pit in the center of the point. You cannot avoid going near that thing. And so many ways to send you packing into that pit. Oh, looks like we're right back into the action here, though. Great to see Glister producing. That's exactly what he needed.
And that was not an easy shot. Somehow found BQB and gets even more. Glister on a roll. And this is big for the Spitfires. They look to retake.
Glister is shut down. Florida hanging on to control by the skin of their teeth, but this should be an opening for Florida to clean up. Great delay from Yaki, though. Gonna get Florida all the way to 99% control.
Looking for it right now, London about to get the retake. Mayhem, though, they bring it to 99%. It's still not a bad spot to be in, Jake.
Glister, though, back to the Tracer. Wanted to get back to that fight fast after being cut down, but these pickups on Widow made it a possibility. Made this round actually within reach.
This is where he found the McCree, in traffic on the other side.
Oh, man, he's so sharp.
Why did Chris do that, though? Why did Chris come back? He's like, surely the Widow still won't be there. It's like, actually, yeah, the Widow's coming.
Now, though, with the Tracer, once again, will he be able to survive the barrage from Yaki? Those icicles have been so deadly in the past. Swift does come in, not finding anything, though, but isolated supports. They are taken down by the DPS. Great separation dive from the London Spitfire.
It was a nice self-destruct to put everyone in a tough position, and now the Spitfire got to clean up on the outskirts. Florida, who fought this round back, now stuck. One more attempt to try and take map 1.
Chris on 90% of that sound barrier. That's going to be so important. He needs to get that online before the London Spitfire can pick him off. It could be the saving grace to get Florida Mayhem in. Luckily, Karayan on the Hammond should be able to touch the point effectively, allowing the rest of the team to slow things down and go in as they like.
Mayhem right now looking for a way in. Chris trying to build that sound barrier. And BQB's going to give him the time. A Deadeye here, forcing London back. Chris, 97%. Karayan, a little bit deep, cannot fall at this moment. That would be an absolute disaster, but Glister goes in, caught by the icicle, and now the beat has been dropped in the Mayhem. Moving on in, Shui, one of the last people alive to be a hero. Mercy still supporting him, the barrage is locked and ready. Can he thread the needle here? It's gonna be quite difficult as Florida swarm the point, and London, they are running out of time.
They're going to be forced into a contest soon, but Shui, he doesn't have much support. He's going on a suicide mission, takes out the May, but it's BQB in the kill feed all the way in the back. They have to get on this McCree, or Florida will be running away with this top round.
Right now, London hoping for a miracle. It does not happen. The Mayhem take map 1.
Very impressive adaptations. Yaki on the May against Dive Comp, just absolutely denying the Tracer from Glister. Glister got something done on the Widowmaker, but the Tracer was just eating icicles to the face.
And the worst part about that, too, as a Tracer is that think about the impact it has, too, on your gameplay, where you have to respect the May so much. You don't want to get one shot, so already you're playing even more defensive. But it's close so far. The Mayhem taking it to the Spitfire. Will the Spitfire be able to take off once more? Join us after the break.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
Florida Mayhem coming out strong against the Spitfire. The big reason, BQB, a little bit of a tough start on the Sombra, but a much, much better showing on the McCree.
Yeah, he seems very well practiced, very sharp on that hit scan roll. He's got the positioning down. We've seen this from all the most dominant McCrees so far this metagame. They stay in the back as the fight breaks down. They want to keep that range, knowing that the enemy team has to get on top of you, and you want to maximize the distance that those Divas and Lucios have to close.
It's an interesting retrospective too, just because we saw that same round occur yesterday against the Outlaws, where the Outlaws did not bring out a McCree. It wasn't really something they wanted to put Blase on, but it shows the strategy shift you can use against the Pharah in that situation.
I mean, and the reason we haven't seen heroes like Pharah, like Tracer very much at all this meta is less to me that these heroes are weak, and it's more that with Mei and McCree seeing such a high pick rate, those are just terrible matchups for each of those DPS respectively. McCree destroys Pharah, and Mei is absolutely terrifying to play against as Tracer. You can get one shot at any time, anywhere on the map. It really just messes with your head. You can't be as aggressive as you want to be on Tracer. It's hard to get value out of recall.
Eichenwalde going to be the next map we head to, and just as a note on that, Jake, I think the worst part is you're playing Tracer, and then you see on the kill cam, the Mei wasn't even looking for you, it was just blind spam. It's like, really? That's going to take me out? Frustrating.
Yeah, well, as Mei, you got nothing better to do against dive comp than spam for that Tracer, try and catch her out, but I think it's more than luck. I mean, these best Meis, they know the flank angles that the enemy Tracers want to be taking. They're trying to put pressure, and the best place to catch a Tracer is on those early rotations before she's actually diving you, ready to use all her blinks, ready to be evasive with her movement. When she's taking those rotations, she might not always respect that long-range projectile, and that can be deadly against a player like Yaki.
Well, as we had the Eichenwalde, it's pretty clear that Tracer probably blinked herself out of existence, at least for now. Both teams going to be running the McCree, and it is more of a mirror here once more as we look to see whether or not the Mayhem will be able to storm the gates.
This is one of the first true mirrors on the most dominant comp we've seen. We didn't see much of this at all on Ilios. Both teams favoring the Widow on that Ruin stage. But time to see who's got the stuff on the core meta. This is such an important momentum moment for the series.
Mayhem moving forward again. Fam, not a team to really linger around too much. I expect them to make a move sooner rather than later. This is Spitfire just try and hold them off.
Spitfire, though, are going to struggle to keep their shield alive in this choke point. Bernard isolated, going to have to fly out. Looks like Blister, though, he's the one opening it up onto Yaki.
Blister got an angle, got the Mei, and the Spitfire wants no more of this fight.
It's a perfect wall from Sui, allowing the rest of the team to farm up a lot of ult charge on Karayan. But luckily, Gangnam Jin keeping him alive. He's going to have a major lead in the nano boost. That could be an opening for this attack Florida Mayhem squad.
Mayhem saying, all right, round two, we got a nano. You don't, or at least we don't think you do. See how Gangnam Jin sets this one up. Heavy fire strike pressure moving in, and now the nano boost on the Karayan. Looking for the way over to the right, or to the left. Kind of blocked on sight from his own Mei wall and ends up going back, so not a very effective nano there.
Florida, they know the Krillin is going to have his own nano ready to respond, so they have to break off that engagement when it doesn't go well very quickly. So BQB just going to be hunting, pecking around those flanks, trying to find some sort of opening.
BQB still looking for it, going to use the Deadeye response, looking for Bernard, and oh, nothing but Matrix and moved off the side. What a denial by Bernard.
Too perfect from Bernard. That angle, that's the worst place in the game to get moved off. It feels like you know there's that lower platform behind you, but if you're on just that worst possible angle as he was, Bernard showing his map knowledge right there.
Bernard didn't just beat him up. Bernard took his lunch money and then kicked him while he was down.
Absolutely brutal stuff. J-Mac has a big shatter lead here. That should enable him to get aggressive, but we've seen him show a lot of diversity in his playstyle. Could use the shatter just defensively to stifle Florida Mayhem's advance.
Spitfire back on the point. Mayhem looking for a way in. The beat is ready. Blister, Deadeye to start things out. Mayhem giving it its due respect, dropping a wall and looking to the other side.
Time running low. Mayhem has a slight advantage on this sound barrier, but do they feel like they can push it? Sanguinar already at 90% on his own charge. Could have his up ready to respond. Maywall doesn't catch anything.
Beat is dropped. The Mayhem looking to go in. The stun doesn't move in, and crying a little bit chilly on there. The Spitfire trying to make some space, but J-Mac caught, but Bernard's bomb over the top gives so much more room to the Spitfire. This is looking all Bernard right now, and the Mayhem are in trouble.
London fighting back even without their main tank. Karayan naded and forced to pin back the spawn. He will live for a moment, but it's Gargoyle out of his suit in this Baby Diva. Luckily, the pistol spam comes through. He's going to be able to remech before the next fight, but with 1 minute basically left on the clock, not much so far working out for the Florida Mayhem now. They do have a moderate ult advantage, maybe more than they've had all attack long, but Krillin does have the nano boost, so it won't be easy to focus down any one target on the side of the Spitfire.
Mayhem running out of time. Final 50 seconds, perhaps the last good attempt. Gangnam Jin dropping down the Karayan. The Spitfire, a little bit danger. J-Mac sleeping on the other side. Karayan dropping the shatter. Doesn't get too much. J-Mac though isolated, but so is Karayan. Karayan's in real danger. The wall comes out. and now it's about 4-on-4. Spitfire, a little bit more danger here. Bernard's out of it, he can't be the hero this time, and Glister does not want to fight the explosion face to face. Now stuck in a very tough situation as the Mayhem starts swarming the point.
Glister doing a great job surviving under pressure. He won't go down without a fight, sticking with his Ana, but the point cap is ticking up. JMac forced to contest and still regrouping are the London Spitfire. They're looking very weak, naded by Gangnam Jin. This should be a tough hold for them to make happen, and with Gargoyle on the high ground, I don't know if they're going to be able to do it.
Spitfire still going for it, they're investing the Blizzard, and Glister's still around. You can't count them out while Glister is in the fight. Shui's Blizzard has made key space. Glister still around, Shui is out of it, so is Bernard. Now what's Glister gonna do? Not much, because they stay off the point!
No!
Well, Glister, you're still alive, but perhaps you shouldn't be. Time to come back.
That's pretty tragic, given ownership of the London Spitfire. You hate to see it, but cart will still be moving now. London charging forward, wanted to get as many frags as possible, especially on this Hammond. You might as well keep the spawn camp rolling.
Yeah, I mean, just note where Glister is right now. The spawn is actually in front of him at that point, but hey, it's working out. It's keeping the Mayhem a little bit discombobulated, so it burns time, Jake, nonetheless.
It is important, and JMac already 70% on these mines. I wonder if he'll end up switching. But here we've got Vision on this unfortunate failure to contest the point, otherwise known as a C9.
And London, I mean, I think they had a real chance of turning this around. Oh, that's a failure right there. I got to put that one to a degree on Sanguinar, just right there to the side, and could have been in.
Yeah, trying to defend his backline, focused on his Ana. He can't always be ready for everything, expecting his tanks to be there in time, but they just weren't. Now Florida rotating to the high ground with BQB. He could be deadly if left uncontested, but Bernard's not going to let that happen.
Bernard has been the defender and the ruiner of hit scan. Oh, once more! But still a winnable fight here from Mayhem, even with the block coming in from Bernard. JMac is down, the front line not looking good. Mayhem looking pretty healthy, but okay. We got to freeze, we got to sleep. But the Spitfire down Bernard and down JMac. I don't think they can keep contesting.
BQB does fall though, and even though London Spitfire, they're gonna lose this fight, they're a long way from Florida Mayhem spawn, so Chris gonna elect to go back and taxi at the very least for the London Spitfire. Florida's not gonna be able to hold close on their spawn doors unless they want to take this 4v6, which they might end up going for, but most likely London's gonna get out these doors for free, so they will have a fair fight on this bridge, which often favors the defenders.
It favors the defenders, but Florida, it's not fair at all. They're coming in with a pretty significant ultimate advantage here. The Bionade already on the Spitfire, and I look to Gargoyle. Gargoyle perhaps looking for a set bomb right now. In over to the side, the beat is out for the Mayhem. They drop the Blizzard. Bernard's bomb comes up rather short. JMac out of the fight. Now the Mayhem up 6-on-5. Moving on in, already 2 takedowns, and this is looking very, very good. The Mayhem so far, they're down crying though, and the Spitfire perhaps turning around. Bernard doing serious damage into the back.
Gargoyle has to come into self-destruct, wants a chance to remech, keep this fight rolling, but London trying to come out. No, the nano boost onto Yaki. That should spell disaster. There's no way to take down this May, but JMac doing a great job kiting him away.
JMac almost got the pin. He was looking for it. Florida just went and put this way. JMac lives! JMac still alive. And now respawns for the Spitfire, potentially on the way out. JMac goes down, but here comes Glister. It's a charged up Symmetra. Your eyes do not deceive you. Burning down the mech. And the Spitfire, Jake, they have almost rallied.
The TP through the window to contest point. That's such an intelligent play from Glister, the perfect hero for the situation. Most fast heroes don't get out as quick as Sim with the TP in that exact moment on Eichenwalde. And I want to say, what great kiting from JMac. Yaki takes the nano, but all he can do is punch JMac in the face. He thinks he's playing Doomfist out there. But that's just great team play from the rest of the London Spitfire, delaying up, playing that spawn advantage off the back of a few picks from Bernard. They end up turning it around.
Bernard is the one I keep going back to here, particularly on this map, where anytime you think London's in trouble, Bernard does some form of hero play where even there where we're looking inside the castle, outside the castle, Bernard gets on the 2 people, breaks the door open just enough so that London had the ability to respawn and come back in onto the fight. Really, really good stuff from Spitfire, but especially Bernard.
The spawn advantage is such a critical concept in Overwatch. Just to highlight Bernard's play, when he's closer to the enemy spawn, he's going to play more defensive. He's going to try and shut down BQB, play it slow. But closer to his own spawn, where his allies will be back quicker, he's going to let them fall in exchange for picking off the enemy backline. And that's a trade that favors the defenders when they're fighting with spawn advantage.
Of course, you talked about the teleport here. the 500 IQ stuff in over the top, back into the fight. Time to charge up and go.
Yeah, it's a perfect thing, and because you leave the teleporter there, so all your allies are going to be coming back through, contesting very quickly, so that's a great place to hold, but it's by no means over here for the Florida Mayhem. They could still make that full hold, basically at the same location that London did. Very, very doable. We've seen a lot of teams fall there. A lot of teams fall on first point. So the question is, can London have a better offense than Florida?
Something we're definitely going to have to find out. All right, a little bit of a nap for Glister. It was a tough round last time around.
Oh, a little bit of ally tactical crouching there going on, styling on your teammates. Sometimes you got to give it to him on Sanguinar. You got to give it to him on the Lucio.
Look, you got to motivate your team and go, look, I'm playing better than you. Step it up.
Little friendly banter among friends. Glister on the flank, though, not looking friendly. He wants heads.
Yeah, Glister on the flank and just sees Eva on the other side. Man, of course, looking for first point hold if possible. Gangnam Jin, though, snoozing on the side. Krillin lands a nice sleep dart. Now Spitfire looking to take well advantage. Glister is going for the flank. Now back with this team. The Mayhem really, really low right now. That Biodate put them in a world of hurt. Gargoyle low. BQB under pressure. The Spitfire, though, eating damage at the same time. Bernard is looking a bit low himself. J-Mac, though, finally finds Cryan. And now the Spitfire working with a significant advantage.
It's a big isolation from Sui on the Maywall to enable that pickoff. Yaki strikes back, though, so it's not quite over just yet. You see Florida regrouping on all the flanks. BQB is all the way behind. He could turn this into some picks if he can find an exposed player.
Sui getting the first hit advantage on May there. Yaki nowhere to go. Krillin added on here. The Spitfire, they just about have this one lockdown, Jake.
It's a good play there by Krillin, committing the nano boost when things look a little bit grim. You just want to lock in that first point, especially given that all you have to do is make it through second to get the win. So let's just get that payload moving, London say, and it's absolutely worth it there. Although Gangnam Jin gonna have that nano boost advantage, it's a little bit more difficult to utilize defending this gate. It's so much closer to the attacker spawn that even if Florida played less than perfect here, they will be allowing the payload to move next fight.
Florida definitely in a tough position. 4 minutes, 40 seconds left for the Spitfire. A lot of time just to get through point B.
And we're going to see Florida take the contest on this first corner of the payload. Gives yourself a little bit better position for your McCree and Ana, playing this nice backline high ground, able to support. Yaki forced the ice block early, so Shui might have an opening with the Blizzard, but Gargoyle still keeping a close eye on him.
Spitfire right now taking their time, utilizing their time bank advantage. Still an ult advantage at the same time. BQB looking for a bit of poke right now. The Spitfire just backing out. Prioritizing payload progress here, Jake, that they are getting.
Both teams looking for that opening pick. It makes such a huge difference this patch. BQB baiting with the high noon, gonna start the engagement off early.
SM's using it for a reload. Barrier out for the Mayhem, barrier out for the Spitfire. Cryan though, frozen. They have the nano. Keep him in it. Drops a shatter, puts Sanguinar Bernard on the ground, but J-Mac will shatter the other side, puts Yaki on the ground. They're gonna be able to finish him. Shui out of the fight, Yaki able to get away. Both teams down one. The Spitfire still looking to commit here, Jake.
Yeah, without Gangnam Jin, that should spell retreat for the Florida Mayhem. They don't have the sustain necessary to engage in a long fight, so I like the decision to retreat, give those heals over to Gangnam Jin, try to get that nano boost up, but they're going to be facing Bernard's self-destruct and absolutely no other ults in the tank for Florida Mayhem. This is a very open point where the defenders might have an advantage, but self-destruct is so impactful.
It would be a fitting end to Bernard this map to have a hero bomb here, over the top, here it comes! Not quite. Shielded off, but it does force resources out. Gargoyle couldn't get away, and Glister there on the cleanup. The bomb does its job, and the Spitfire just slowly rolling this one in, and that's gonna be it. We're tied up 1-1.
Great use of the self-destruct there, breaking down the shield of Karaya, and he's immediately poked down by the DPS, understanding that without the shield, Ryan is essentially a sitting duck. He's trying to contest card, but he just doesn't have the resources available, so that's a clean teamfight execution coming out from the London Spitfire. They've got one ult, but self-destruct is all you need if the enemy doesn't have anything else online.
So the Spitfire rebound as they head to the hybrid map. Bernard showing his colors, looking very, very strong. And the Spitfire want to make this one a series. We're all even into the half.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by T-Mobile. Rank up with America's first and only nationwide 5G network.
We've got a match, an even match that is, with Florida and London each at 1 map apiece going into the break.
Oh, God.
This is your game bank presented by Cheesy Grooves. What's up, everybody? This one is a slobber knocker. Can you imagine, by the way,
I'm
having the audacity to pick London to win this match? Can you?
I'm officially labeling this match an El Clasico.
Okay, because you do know that
it has crossed the line of a regular season match.
The chaotic energy is there.
Brennan Sideshow have stolen our El Clasico thing that we called games last year because they have no creativity and just trying to copy us.
Right.
I agree, Matt. Now, for those at home who are wondering, we use the term El Clasico a little bit more derisively in Overwatch to describe a match that is an absolute
It's a barn burner. It's a barn burner.
There's no rhyme or reason to anything that's happening. All it is just people throwing ultimates and ability and who can mechanically skill better than the other.
Can we find method in the madness, though? Let's talk about the team comps here on Ilios first.
You saw a little bit. We've seen a lot of these kind of compositions on like we've seen the Farah, we saw the Tracer. You just sort of see everything. We saw the Doomfist on Lighthouse as well. So it's pretty much what we come to expect. We saw Florida try and play pretty much the meta and London going dive. London had some moments, but honestly, BQB was just shutting down Shui across the board.
Florida switches from the Orisa to the Winston to the Wrecking Ball.
Yeah.
What are they trying to counter? What is it from London that causes them problems?
I think they were really trying to work out how to get on top of BQB. You even saw Glister switch to the Widow at times. So it's just, I think they're just sort of switching at will. They don't really have a game plan to really deal with it. They're just sort of play whatever you think you can do to win this match.
Yeah, a lot of counters. Like you saw when Shui was trying to play the Farah on Will, and he was like,
he looked good.
But he like there was one point where like he was barely even like across like he was like his own 20-yard line. Yeah, pretty much. Like he didn't want to get close to BQB. Like it's been a very interesting series these first two, especially map 2. Map 2 is just
I mean, so BQB runs rampant in map 1. Let's talk about Eichenwalde now as well, because this was a little bit of a different flavor for us. The defense from London Spitfire. I mean, especially the environmental kills here. Despacito mode for BQBs. He goes over the edge.
I love we're in the back and Mitch is like screaming like that, like because he's a London fan evidently now.
Oh, no, I
just like screaming. He's like, oh, they're
just for the Preds.
And then as soon as he says that, they get off the point. But they turned it around though.
And I think you sort of, this is like the bridge of death, and you sort of saw Florida really sort of struggle to get across it.
Yeah.
But this second point on both sides just turned into chaos. Everyone's just running all over the place. There wasn't really much team coordination. Like, we just watched Atlanta versus Paris, and that was a great game in terms of how to play the meta. If you're watching this game, this is not a great way of how to play the meta.
Do these teams care about the meta? They're just trying to counter each other's
No, they do. I mean, they do care about the meta, right? They're playing it.
Yeah.
But I think, though, in obviously with hero pools coming in so closely, like I think there's probably a lot of other things they're working on outside of just this type of setup, where I think that's probably why you might see, not the cleanest of play this week.
Yeah.
All right, well, we have a bit of a moment to pick out now, of course, because it's crunch time presented by Cheese It Grooves, and Custer has prepared this one for us in advance.
Okay, so I see you guys in chat. This is what an actual C9 is, okay? So this is a completely winnable fight for the London Spitfire. So Florida are on the point. They have like 99%. But then what happens is London gets control. They get a couple of picks. They are winning, and they get off the point. So this is a completely winnable fight for the London Spitfire, but they get off the last moment. You got to underline Sanguinar here. He runs off the point to chase a kill. Towards the end here, if you see him, he's currently in like the barn type thing. He's on the point, everything's going well. He jumps off to chase the Diva at the last second. They lose the cap. They would have full held that.
Yeah, it works for
That's a
Jexay
crunch
chasing the
nine, baby! Crunch nine!
That's a
Any
crunch mode.
crunchers?
Crunchers in the chat rise up. So
Not ideal. You see, obviously, there was a lot of pressure being applied by the Diva, obviously, to the London Spitfire supports, but there was a chance to get back on. Sanguinar looks like he lost his bearing for a moment there and walked off the point. It happens. I mean, the legacy continues, Jack. We're still on this page somehow. I don't know how it is. So let's think about the next map. Horizon Lunar Colony is going to be the next map, which is also kind of a crazy one. Very open to randomness and some different comps. So what are the tweaks? Okay, so if you guys, having predicted Florida, you want them to win, so you look smarter than you actually are. how,
true.
like, where do we tweak things here?
I don't think there's really necessarily going to be many tweaks going into Horizon. I think, though, whoever starts on the defensive end here on Horizon, if they can get a really good first point hold, which Horizon kind of tends to have some really good first point holds, I think you put a lot of pressure on the opposing team.
Yeah, and I'm sure Johnny's yelling in the back, Shui Genji. I think that's all he's hoping for.
It.
He loves seeing the clunkiness that is the Shui Genji.
That's not the answer, is it?
We've seen a lot of people try and play Genji on Horizon with very little success. So I honestly think you might see some like Sombra, maybe some Doomfist. Otherwise, I think we'll just see a meta matchup and it'll just be an El Clasico round 2.
I mean, Yaki's Doomfist looks filthy.
It does.
Sombra looked like it got them a little bit of progress at least for London over on Ilios. So we'll see if they go for that. But it's time to head back to Houston to see how the rest of this, this barn burner, as Matt put it, goes down. We'll see you after for Watch Point Reset.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Cheez-It Grooves. Deep flavor, deep crunch. It's a mind crunch.
Things are heating up here in Houston as the Spitfire strike back against the Mayhem, deciding that Eichenwalde was going to be where they would turn things back around. Really nice stuff, of course, coming out from Bernard, and a renewed London team that, again, could be best described as chaos. Of course, I'm TP here with Jake as we're past the halftime, and we'll see what team now is going to take it.
It's going to be interesting, but as I said before, Eichenwalde is a key momentum moment for the series. Both teams playing the dominant metagame, playing what we expect to see throughout the series, and London looked a lot more dominant on their map win than Florida did on theirs. That first round was extremely close between both teams. So far, I feel like London's in the driver's seat, and especially with Glister so far having a little bit of a better performance on the Widow. As we go to our next map, I think that could be a higher impact hero than the McCree.
I totally agree, and I think part of it too is that London, they've just been having more hero plays where, okay, London will randomly throw away fights for just kind of silly reasons, but the fights they win, it's impressive. You look at what Glister is able to do when he's on a roll. You look at how Bernard just randomly shuts down people entirely, takes away all hope from their being. London, the potential of this team is scary.
Yeah, lots of great stuff coming in across the roster. We talked about Glister being this huge threat, but I feel that Krillin also playing to a really high level here, finding a lot of sleeps, a lot of big nades, understanding when he needs to be aggressive, when he needs to be defensive. Bernard as well, J-Man. It's really across the board for this London squad. And as we go into our Horizon, our capture point map type, it's going to be interesting to see if BQB can respond. We've seen a lot of Widow dominance on this map, but then again, it's also an opportunity for the Florida Mayhem to potentially run a dive strategy that works so well for them on Ilios.
Definitely time for either team to change things up, and You look at the Spitfire here, Shui. We have seen Shui come out on a Dragon Blade. It is not merely myth. In fact, Shui had a great moment where brought out the Blade versus Houston, got plenty of eliminations, no nano required.
Yeah, it's a rare sight indeed, seeing the Genji come out with the Reinhardt without those die tanks to support him. But I guess with D.Va's new high level of mobility, it's less ridiculous, I think, to play this sort of strategy. But I do feel that J-Mac's going to be often left alone, left in the dust if he sticks on the Rein. But Shui back to the Mei, this makes a lot of sense. And I still feel like Glister could get a lot of value on the Sombra, but he may just be looking to scout, discover the enemy locations, discover their hero picks, and call those out to his team so that they can adjust accordingly.
This seems like more of a scouting play to me, and it is. He sees there's a Widow on the other side and goes, you like Widowmaker. Well, so do I. Let's fight.
A bit of Widow dueling here. We'll see on this first point. BQB so far has been falling for the most part to Glister. That's a great wall from Yaki, though, slowing down this rotation, buying time for the rest of the Florida Mayhem to peck away at that Rein shield, but so far not able to find the opening.
Pretty good pressure coming out from BQB here so far, forcing out the Matrix from Bernard. Now the rest of London just going to take a slow saunter up the side, and Florida applying a bit of pressure right now, but they're not really committing just yet, Jake.
Gargoyle is very deep, though, hunting down Glister. He's not going to be able to find any pickoffs so far. But Bernard, that means he's free on point, challenging this Lucio.
Bernard almost got a full tick for free, forcing rotations at Florida, giving space for the rest of his team. Now Bernard, though, wall over wall, just barely able to get back to his team.
Ooh, but that's going to farm a lot of Nano Boost charge for Krillin. Could open up an aggressive potential here. Glister did a great job retreating back to spawn with Gargoyle on him, and now Florida penned into the corner. They don't have much map control in this moment.
Florida, of course, they need to put someone back to the point where the Biodate puts him in such a tough spot. Glister, meanwhile, gets BQB. Everything starting to fall to pieces here for the Mayhem, both in the front line and the back.
Glister really just having such a huge advantage with the rest of his team, pinning the Mayhem into the corner. BQB forced to contest off essentially one sight line. There's no subterfuge there. There's no other alternate way to peek. So Glister's just camping that sight line, and at some point BQB's got to take a chance. You can't fault him for that, but just tactical play from London, and no, this could be an absolutely massive stagger onto Gargoyle. Gargoyle only at 70% on his mech suit. Could be an opening here, but he's finding a bit of pistol spam. That might enable him to remech.
I think Gargoyle will be fine, 90%. Although there is still a very, very tiny window here. 96 should get back to the mech, but the positioning is kind of gone. The Spitfire working at an edge, already onto the point. The Blizzard from Shree went ready to go, dropping it in the middle of the point. And now Crime has the nano, but cannot move forward. Zoned out by the Blizzard. Krillin finds Yaki on the side. And now the Spitfire really turning up the pressure, but the shatter from Karayan the other way. Giving a little bit of space to the Spitfire, but it's a Mayhem starting to fight things back.
Mayhem managing to hold on, not even giving up a tick there. They should be able to make this hold. The Infrasight from BQB just doing a little bit too much on the defense. Although next fight, Glister should have a big advantage. That Infrasight advantage makes a huge difference in the Widow duel. So BQB is going to have to play defensive, wait that one out, and that can create some openings for London Spitfire to take a rotation here into that last point.
Still important for Florida to hold strong there. You never want to be that deep in a time bank deficit here on Horizon. They bought themselves a little bit of breathing room.
It is going to be all on the initial engagement here. Can the Florida Mayhem actually stifle Glister with the Infrasight? If he finds even one pick, that could be disastrous for the defense. They need to get their ultimates off in sequence.
Pretty big Bionade from Gangnam Jin there. London decides to wait it out, does not want to go in while everyone is purple. Glister, Infrasight up, looking for anything, and oh boy, he summoned the D.Va. Gargoyle all over Glister to the side, and Glister cannot shake the pressure. Gangnam Jin adds into it, so the Widow threat gone, and the Mayhem simply back up and keep the Spitfire at bay.
Gangnam Jin once again asserting his dominance in the sniper duel on a versus Widow. That's not how you expect this to go. Now, Sleeping Bernard, they might try and turn this into a pickoff. Sleep should wear off soon, and hopefully Bernard can escape with those boosters. Could be a deadly stagger, but fortunately he's able to retreat, get the full reset. But so far it's been all BQB in this Widow duel. First point, Glister looked like a little stronger, but BQB has a great understanding of the second point sidelines.
BQB's also been very evasive in using those sightlines where London really hasn't been able to get onto him. London's had bigger issues like getting dived on before they get into the point, so totally agree. Mayhem's playing this very well.
And just a huge advantage here for the Florida Mayhem. They have this massive sound barrier that can come down at any time, enable a huge amount of aggression to come out. So London, they're hoping for an initial pickoff here, but not finding anything just yet.
Chris hanging on to the sound barrier, the Mayhem. trying to play the economy game right now. Gargoyle, a little bit in danger. The freeze comes out, Cryan in danger, and that necessitates the beat on the other side. Yaki, though, can't get away. Spitfire working advantage. Here comes Bernard's bomb. Over. Does not quite connect. Mayhem, though, still in danger. Cryan gets the nano to stay alive under very heavy pressure. BQB trying to turn this around for the Mayhem, looking for any picks possible. The Spitfire not giving a lot of room.
London have so much progress. Shatter, though, completely stuffed by J-Mac. Although Karayan throws the pin in, trying to delay. Great support from Gagnon Jin, but it's not enough to keep Karayan up. London in control, capturing this point, and they're able to do it with 2 minutes left on the clock.
Slow and methodical for London at the end, but it gets the job done. Minute 56 left in the time bank. The Spitfire, good start here to Horizon as they look to take the lead in the series 2-1.
It was, for me, really all that massive blizzard from Shui, able to break things open for his team, shutting down his counterpart in Yaki, getting the full freeze on the enemy Mei. No ice block available, it seems, to defend himself, and with the Rhine down as well, it's looking grim to try and make that hold.
Will London be able to keep the lead they've built up here on Horizon, or will Florida take it away once more? Join us after the jump.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by Zip Chair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
Of course, that is the Florida Mayhem homestand that is just around the corner. That's right, it's March 14th and 15th live in Miami, Florida. Visit floridamayhem.gg for tickets and more. It's gonna be exciting to see Florida have their first homestand.
And hopefully they can be going into it with a bit of momentum here. This match seems very winnable, but so far it's been London in the driver's seat, especially as we've been on these Widow comps. Feels like Glister just has a slight edge over BQB, although that second point defense, for a few times, it was BQB finding that opening pickoff first. So this is definitely anybody's game. These teams so evenly matched, it's tough to say how the series will break down.
Both teams definitely have a bit of an X factor to them, where you look at the common denominator between both teams. You're dealing with a lot of young, talented players, many players fresh from the contenders scene, both getting used to the rigors of the OWL schedule. So it shouldn't be surprising that the results for both teams are a bit up and down.
What is a bit surprising to me, though, is that Glister is going to elect to defend with McCree. Doesn't like the Widow duel, or maybe doesn't expect Florida to bring out that Widow on attack. McCree, of course, offering a lot more shield pressure, a lot more strong fighting ability. If you do get pushed into the corners of point, it's less of a death sentence because McCree, no stranger to just standing behind his Rhine and delivering that DPS. So London, a bit more flexibility with this comp, but they're going to want to keep it to close range, especially if BQB keeps the Widow. But no, he wants the mirror match, going to take the McCree as well. So we're going to see who's able to get those pickoffs, those dead eyes, so impactful on these wide open maps.
Definitely would have been a tough surprise for Yaki. Although not that big of a surprise given the meta, the run on Genji and just see May and McCree in the back. Not really Genji's best matchup, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it, but you just need a full commit. You need an entire strategy built around the Genji, or else he's really going to suffer. But a new rotation here coming in from the Florida Mayhem, making a quick wrap to point. They want to start the capture progress very, very quickly. London on top of them, but not having an opening to drop in.
Florida definitely not a team to waste time and move to the point, and now it's up to London to make a move. London holding the high ground right now, trying to poke back. They need to keep this under pressure. BQB in danger under very heavy pressure. Bernard in his face, but he's able to chase him off. Bernard just barely escaping with his life. And so far right now, London getting a bit bullied off their own point.
Both teams, though, have a moment to regroup behind the ice wall. Glister taking the rotation to high ground, but it's Yaki opening it up onto Shui.
Shui out of the fight. Now you got to turn the Glister. Can Glister do anything? Because J-Max out of the fight. London down to 4. Glister, that's 1. Glister, what you got? Can you get a little bit more? BQB is waiting for you here on the point. 2 ticks already gone. The Spitfire trying to buy a little bit of time. Sanguinar doing that, and here comes Bernard. Gets nanoed. It's falling to the ground. This is making room for Glister. Glister, what do you have for the room that Bernard's just bought you? Bernard is down. The Deadeye's up from Glister. Off on the other side. Glister for now. Can't find an opportunity, and now London, they need to get back to point B.
Should be all delay here, but with the near instant spawns, as long as these picks come quickly for the Florida Mayhem, London, they will be back alive to defend that second point. BQB gonna have to respawn as well. That should slow down their advance. We'll see a relatively fair fight, but it's Florida Mayhem with a massive ultimate bank there, able to win that fight very cleanly, charge up a ton of their ultimates, and London Spitfire, they can't say the same.
So the Mayhem on a fast turn right now. 5 minutes left, plenty of time in the bank. And the Spitfire working with way less ultimates. This is the opportunity now for the Mayhem.
Mayhem taking it slow. They don't want to get cut in half by an ice wall. This is the sort of choke point where that can easily happen. Nice counter rotation from Gangnam Jin and BQB coming out the backside, threatening a different angle, making the May think twice about where she wants the wall.
The Mayhem are charged, ready to go. They almost have the sound barrier, a full suite of ultimates. And BQB starts it out with a bang. Sanguinar taken on down by the Deadeye. 6 on 5. Shui's Blizzard has faded. Gargoyle dropped the bomb for space, but so is Bernard. Both bombs explode. Either with elimination. BQB though going in. Karayan chasing forward. The Shatter is ready. Shui is down, and so is J-Mac. And the Mayhem might have done it here and now, Jake.
Mayhem in total control. Sanguinar 95 to the sound barrier, but it's not available yet. That 5% feels like an eternity away. Nano Boost does come out, but too little too late. Seems no barrier just in time. Huge shadow from Karayan. Shuts it down though.
The welcome committee from Karayan puts him on the ground, but the fall through not there. It's the Spitfire. They've somehow bought time. Shui on the emergency. Doomfist finds Yaki, and the Spitfire somehow, some way, are on the verge of defending this, even though Shui gets taken for a ride.
Karayan, though, with that pin back towards his team, he's too far away from the point to keep the contest going. London somehow making it work, making something out of nothing, finding those pickoffs with those late swaps. Usually we see teams fail in that situation, so London, great composure from them, but they are going to have to switch most of their heroes to get back onto this dominant composition. It's going to cost them all their ultimates, so once again, Florida, they have an ultimate advantage push. Last time, BQB took down Sanguinar, so I'd expect to see less of a mistake this time coming out from London Spitfire. They need to hide from this high noon and yet still keep the pressure on point.
Spitfire, they've dug themselves out of what was a deep hole to start things out. The Mayhem have lost what was an overwhelming edge. And now we'll see how they approach this next one here. Gangnam Jin waiting, drops the nano on the Yaki. I don't think that was intentional. BQB looking on the Deadeye, doesn't get anything. And now the nano about to fade. Spitfire looking to respond. On the other side, J-Mac was one with the nano. And here comes Yaki, drops the Blizzard, the Mayhem, making room, Gargoyle adding on, Krillin's already down, and Gargoyle connects! That was both a Pilot Diva into a self-destructed Yaki on the follow-through.
Bernard forced to dive into the Blizzard just to keep the point going. This should be all Florida Mayhem, securing control with a slight time advantage. This is anybody's map. This series couldn't be any closer.
Really nice stuff from both sides. And I gotta give it up to Gargoyle there, where you take a look at how that went down. The bomb was in progress. Gargoyle finishes his elimination. Then the bomb goes off. That's the stuff you like to see as Diva.
Pilot Diva can be very dangerous. We've seen it before in the Overwatch League. These players are so accurate, so deadly. She might be small, but that pistol can be so dangerous.
Ooh. Wasn't much HP, but still counts.
Ooh, and I think that's a mistake from Glister there, potentially re-peeking into the self-destruct. Maybe an unforced error there. Ends up being such a high-impact play because Gargoyle just sweeps the floor with the rest of the team. There's not even a McCree for him to hunt down anymore.
So the Mayhem still very much in the series, and the time bank between the two, similar. It was Mayhem that set a quicker time, and now it's up to London to respond.
And this is an extremely different look coming out from the Florida Mayhem, but remember, they had such success with this composition on Ilios earlier as it enabled them to get that early map win. So we'll see if Yaki's able to work that magic on the Doomfist again. Though London, not with a Sombra to scout, they could be punished if they commit with this Widow coming too far to spawn. They might get caught out.
Of course, near and dear to my heart, it is a runaway reunion of sorts. Shui, Yaki, and Gangnam Jin all won titles in Contenders Korea with Runaway. Probably, in fact, arguably the very best training ground for new Overwatch League talent. Runaway, a fantastic organization.
And like I say, you always play your hardest playing against former teammates, trying to show them who is boss, who the real carry was on that last team. We'll see if the dive's able to work out, though. Glister is going to struggle to survive, and look, seems like this comp has been scouted. He's going to switch off that Widowmaker, just too vulnerable to the dive. Karayan, though, sitting up in this flank, he's trying to predict London's rotation. If they come towards him and he's able to start the fight without the leap, then he'll have the mobility to respond no matter how the fight goes.
Spitfire is taking a lot of time right now in the swaps. Understandable, but this is a win for Florida already, and they haven't even fired a shot. Now, though, firing some shots, looking for JMac, charges out, puts himself in a tough position. Man, though, don't full commit. They're going to back out. They're going to wait for the Spitfire to rotate.
Still, though, Florida charging their ultimates, and once again, just slowing down the London Spitfire's advance. They need to make it a point. At this point, they're not going to have more than one fight, and now the flank comes in from Gargoyle.
Gargoyle looking to the back. A little bit more pressure. Now the Florida Mayhem all in, but they might be all out. Karayan taken out by Bernard. A little bit of an overextension by the Mayhem. And now the Spitfire moving forward, and early Coalescence by Krillin really making the difference.
Coalescence is huge. Bionade, though, could be bigger. Blister forced to commit his Wraith form. BKB's EMP finds a few, but Yaki trying to convert, trying to keep this fight going. He almost has Meteor Strike. That could be enough.
Yaki could be the one thing that could turn this around, but it would be a tough ask, and no more. Yaki ending up falling there. Bernard on the case. This is going to be a pretty quick point A for the Spitfire, but now, Jake, the all-important question, can they get point B with about 45 seconds on the clock?
The struggle here is that BQB went for a desperation EMP, trying to hold on to first point. You can't blame him strategically, but at the same time, Sanguinar has a sound barrier, and there's no answers to that of the Florida Mayhem. They've got a lot of aggressive potential, but sometimes the sound barrier can just be a complete counter to all of that. London charging onto point with their Reaper.
It just lets you be fearless. Oh, speaking of fearless, there's Yaki! Takes down two! What a momentum shift for the Florida Mayhem!
All right, well, you can't drop the beat if you're dead. So the Sanguinar gonna have to survive next time. And with only 15 seconds on the clock, this could be a delay that just ends their London's chances to cap second.
That was a Yaki out of nowhere moment. Channeling some raw wrestling energy if I ever saw it. But now the Spitfire needing to get back to point. 2 seconds left. They drop the beat in a real tough spot. JMac hacked. Dispatch gone. And Yaki and BQB putting on a clinic. Even eat the Blizzard. Stop. They're already dead.
This is just brutal from the Florida Mayhem. There's absolutely no chance for London to take this second point. Great aggressive pressure, great delay on the Diva to secure this final fight and make it easy. Bernard finds Yaki, but there's no way that's enough. Right in front of Florida Mayhem spawn, they've got all their ultimates available.
The hacks continue to come out from BQB. A little bit of extra cleanup. Stylish stuff coming out from Mayhem.
Yeah, especially Yaki on that Doomfist, not able to make it work on first point, but they do hold it down on second, and without giving up a tick of capture progress, that means that they have set themselves a victory condition here if they can just make it to that 33%, but very limited time on the clock. And here we see a replay of Yaki, that Doomfist initiation with the Nano. Ooh, max damage. He doesn't even need to land a shot here, just cleaving through those squishies with the Nano boost.
That was perfection, what we just saw there, where we're looking at it, it's like, London's in such a good spot. They can drop the beat, they can go right in. Yaki was dropping a different sort of beat.
Yeah, that's so important, catching the Lucio of all heroes, the crucial character. And especially on Doomfist, when you catch that Lucio and uppercut him, there's no point in using the sound barrier. It's impossible. You're kept up in the air. You won't be able to actually connect that beat, and you might lose it. So the moment Sanguinar is caught with the seismic slam, it's pretty much all over for him from there.
Now note, this is one of the classic moments where it could be drawable here for the Spitfire. It is still technically winnable. They were able to hold the Mayhem back for 2.5 minutes. So still options here for the Spitfire, whether it be a win or a draw. But the Mayhem would very much like to make that a loss. And if they play as well as they did in that defense, it's very likely to be the case.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, though. They're going to have to secure this first point. We've seen many teams fall, and with only 2:30 on the time bank, you're only going to have a couple real chances at a team fight. You know, London, if they can start building up a bank of ultimates and snowballing you properly, then it's going to be really rough on this attack.
The Mayhem right now, looking for their opportunity again, being swift, but swift directly into a wall. A little bit of delay. BQB needs Bionade, uses a lot of HP, but he has some time to heal up, as Mayhem do consider their time.
They've got a nice position to recover, but now JMac setting up on the high ground right on top of them. This time the rotation is not a surprise. JMac watching carefully. He might be able to dive in for an initiation here. Florida going for the rotation. Once again, Mayewald off.
The wall is down, and so is JMac off the top rope. Gangnam Jin, nowhere to go. Bernard was able to get in on that one. And this is really good containment coming out from the Spitfire. Now the chances of a W looking a little bit better as the Mayhem have to lick their wounds. And Bernard continuing to lay in the pressure.
I like the retreat path from the Florida Mayhem, though. Going out high ground, that's the safest way to regroup to your team. You don't want to let London Spitfire pick off all your teammates, farm all their ultimates up, so at least they're cutting their losses there, but I can't help but worry that this rotation won't work another time. Swee's just way too ready for it. He knows exactly where he needs to wall.
Now we look towards the Spitfire. Minute 20 left on the clock. They try and keep the Mayhem back. Shui waiting for the wall. No, instead they just go for Gargoyle. Gargoyle looking lost in space. He's out of the fight. It's a clean 6-on-5. And now the Spitfire can move forward and try to evict the Mayhem from the point.
Orion frozen up, taken down. Lord Gargoyle trying to bait for his stream. Time to open things up. A couple picks do come through from the Florida Mayhem, but they're so late in the fight, and Florida players even falling right after. So I'm not sure the spawn advantage will be enough to create a fight, but this is the best chance Florida's going to have. They're going to try and stream back in here and try and get some sort of position on the map. Bernard as well out of his suit. That could be another point in the Florida Mayhem's favor.
So the Mayhem down to their final opportunity. They had quite a bit of time to kick things off, and now the Spitfire have drained that time second by second, minute by minute. Gangnam Jin holding on here, has the nano boost for the Mayhem. Biding his time here, Jake.
It's going to have to be enough. Both teams coming up on that Blizzard. Shui going to be ready to respond very, very soon. So Florida, they're running out of time. It's going to be an overtime fight if it's anything at all. Glister on that high ground, though, going to have a free flank.
Gangnam Jin waited and waited. Kryan going to get the nano. And the Blizzard is down here for Florida. Look at the zone. The Spitfire off the fight. So far successful. Glister is down. And BQB, the Deadeye from the side, gets J-Mac. And the Mayhem, they're not done yet.
They're going to have a chance here. This should secure, at the very least, a draw for the Florida Mayhem. So they've cut their losses, but they're not happy with that. They're going to take their chances, try and cap this second point. And London committing everything, trying to hold on, trying to get the win. It might end up costing them here in the face of Gargoyle's self-destruct.
And now the Mayhem, they're playing with the house money. The worst they can do is a draw, but they can still win now. Gargoyle hanging on to the bomb, runs it right down the top. Does not get what they want, but it does buy a little bit of space. The Mayhem now moving on to the point. They only need one tick. Heavy pressure on the Glister. Glister nowhere to go. Gargoyle smothering him on the top. The support doesn't come in. Bernard, the bomb to the side. Kryan though finds Bernard. Both teams down to Diva. The shatter from K-Mac puts Kryan on the ground. Both teams tooth and nail.
The beat comes in just too late to save Shui. It's all BQB on the point. Florida Mayhem, they're doing it.
Florida Mayhem bring it back. They take Horizon. They're up 2-1 now in the series.
Oh, in London, they've got to be kicking themselves from that ultimate commitment on first point, trying to get the win, but it ends up costing them the loss, and now the Mayhem up 2-1, striking back in the series.
Very close all the way through on Horizon, right down to the time bank, and right down to that epic finish. The Spitfire, though, they've proven they can compete. Can they bring this back versus Mayhem? Stay tuned.
Coca-Cola is the official refreshment of the Overwatch League.
We are back here in Houston in the Florida Mayhem, taking Horizon in a thriller. BQB definitely having some moments as the Florida Mayhem put it all together at the end.
Gargoyle as well, doing a great job keeping Glister suppressed, not letting him chop off the heads of the Florida Mayhem the way he's done to so many other teams.
I have to ask you, Jake, as a former player, we see players do all sorts of things with hand warmers. They're not just used for the hands. We see them go in the face, on the nose. Like, what is the appeal here? Why do the hand warmers just constantly float?
I think the nature of it really is that, you know, you're just working with your hands so much as a player. Those are your instruments. Those are your money makers. Like, you know, if your hands aren't on point, if you're not, you know, focused and ready to act, ready to click those buttons at the exact right moment, you completely fall apart. That's the tools of the trade, really. So, you know, keeping those hands active beyond just warming them up, but actually keeping them active, keeping that blood flowing can really help you out in your performance.
But do they smell good? Because we've also seen players just like put it up to their nose and just like smell the hand warmer. These are the questions I need answered.
Like, I can't defend it all, ZB. I can only explain some things, not all of it.
Well, one thing that's easy to explain. We're heading to Havana next, and the Spitfire need to find a way through. Edged out a little bit by the Mayhem on Horizon. They look for redemption here in Havana to force a map 5.
Interestingly enough, we'll see BQB staying in the lineup. In the past, we've often seen Saya player come out for maps like Havana that are, you know, so Widowmaker focused, but you know, Florida, they're showing a lot of confidence in BQB, putting him into what is very likely going to be a Widow duel situation against Glister. So far, it's been back and forth, but I do feel that Glister's had a slight edge in the duel.
Glister's had an edge in the duel, but I do think Glister's been under a lot of pressure, where we were talking about it a little bit during the break, but I feel like Gargoyle, it seems like it's been a little bit quiet, but Gargoyle's definitely been pressuring Glister, I think, a little bit more than the average, and it's definitely made things a little bit difficult, I think, for London.
They understand how dangerous he is, and they're trying to neutralize the threat without overcommitting. So that's the mark of an experienced team with good coaching. But Glister, he has so much space on this map. It's going to be much more difficult for Gargoyle to contest him.
See what Glister has here as the Mayhem begin their attack. London, they're holding real far up here, Jake.
Yeah, Glister, though, taking an icicle to the face, it seems, who almost sniped down, but getting supported by his team. Trying to lay in the headshots here, but BQB, he will outdamage on the shield as the fight goes long, so Glister needs to find a pick to justify his existence on the Widowmaker.
It's a long sightline, but the man has been doing a really nice job of keeping Glister back, not giving up any pickoffs, and they've gotten a lot of payload progress as a result.
Glister's hitting shots, but he's not fighting these squishies. They're doing a great job keeping their heads down low behind the card, using that cover, and Progress just driving forward here. Glister, though, that's the pick, exactly the one they needed. Karayan also taking a nap, so no shield to block the Widow. It's going to be a retreat.
It's what they were waiting for the entire time. You have faith in your Widow, that the Widow will eventually deliver, and Glister usually does.
Of all the pickups you can get, though, it's going to buy the minimum amount of time. Of course, Lucio's so fast out of that spawn. Glister, this Infrasight could be a big difference maker. Ooh, he really wanted that one.
Glister going for the hook shot, and real big damage on the Karayan. Spitfire could follow this one up. They're looking for it. Shui, Bernard going a little bit deeper. Now they're backing on out. They don't want to overextend their hand.
Mayhem doing such a great job playing these angles on the card, but Bernard uses the Infrasight to catch off BQB.
They also use Nano on the J-Mac. They go a little bit far forward after healing up. And again, not going crazy here, giving Glister time, creating opportunities. This is methodical from the Spitfire, but it's definitely working.
Glister is producing even when he can't find those picks. As you said, he's putting heavy pressure onto Karayan, forcing him to keep his shield up 24/7. And on Ryan, that's not what you want. You want to be trading those hammer swings, trying to charge up your shatter, being a little bit greedy. But with Glister's performance so far in the series, you can't blame Karayan for playing a little bit defensive. He needs to keep his allies up, keep everybody healthy, and with Widow raining headshots in, that's just not possible.
Spitfire already draining, 2 minutes off the clock. A Blizzard ready to go from Shui, but also ready on the other side. This next fight gonna get very chilly. Yaki opening up first. It's Florida team with Blizzard. But London, they just back out here, Jake. You're getting up a little bit of progress, and Glister strikes again.
Another Infrasight, man, he's charging these up so quickly, and they're having such a high impact. It's such an open map. BQB on the McCree just hasn't been able to produce the shield damage he's hoping for. Glister getting way too much. Karayan staying ahead on the Rhine trade.
They're really trying to throw every bit of poke towards Glister to keep him off his game here, Jake, and it's not working. Krillin just goes, I'll just keep healing him. I can do this all day.
And BQB gonna pick up a Widowmaker of his own, realizing he just needs to duel. Glister shut him down with a hero play, but could be tough. Ultimate advantage for Spitfire.
Shatter down from J-Mac, doesn't get much on the Florida side. Cry now says, yeah, you thought that was the Shatter? I got a shatter for you. Right over here, but he's got to do it soon. Yaki's down. Glister continues to poke and prod against the Mayhem. The Mayhem might have lost their opportunity.
And Glister, I love this from him. He's taking such a defensive, conservative angle, not giving BQB any openings. He understands he doesn't need to win the Widow duel. All he needs to do is stay alive, keep his presence felt, and rain headshots down onto these tanks, keep them pressured, keep them from playing the game the way they want to. And a pickoff here could be massive. Almost enough. Yaki barely survives.
Only survives because Glister didn't have enough charge. That shot was clean. But now that might be a little bit better. BQB gets Shui. The bomb comes out for the Mayhem, making a little bit of room. Forces out the Blizzard from the Spitfire. Still, fight that Spitfire can bring on back Bernard. Holding onto a bomb of his own. But getting very, very low. So is Glister. The bomb comes out from Bernard. But it's more desperation than anything else. Easily shielded off. And the Mayhem now starting to make real progress onto the point. BQB, a great position. And the Spitfire in danger as Shui comes out. Emergency Doomfist picked right off.
Seems that there's no one left, no resources to stop BQB, and now his reign of terror can begin. Glister coming back on the Tracer, but seems like too little too late. So much control, everyone on the Florida Mayhem staying healthy, but Ryan does fall to Sanguinar. Could be the start of something, but with these fast respawn characters, it'll be tough to fight on point.
Regardless of how this ends, London has to be thrilled here, Jake. They've drained so much time off the clock. If this works out, it's great. If it doesn't, still in a fine spot. BQB gets the last little bit of cleanup, but now look at the time, only 2.5 minutes for what is a very difficult map to complete.
Definitely, but getting past first point can be a tough milestone for any team, and London switching to all those fast heroes, desperation contest, it gets them a bit more time off the clock, but they have to reset all their ultimates, so there's a big opening for Florida Mayhem to get that snowball rolling, potentially make it all the way to third point if they can play this ultimate advantage properly.
Also because London didn't concede the point, now they have to fight for this early choke point. They don't have full dominance over it. It is an opportunity for the Mayhem. Yaki now, holding on to Blizzard, waiting for a way to throw this one out. Mayhem still prioritizing the payload here, Jake.
Yeah, understandably, need to keep that cart moving. Time is of the essence at this point. Yaki, though, trying to find an opening for the Blizzard. Everyone from Mayhem on the low ground. That's going to give a lot of openings for London to poke at them.
And now London poking back. Both teams more on even footing. Glister looking for opportunities, might be considering a flank sooner rather than later. Krillin hanging in the back, the Nano at the ready. Florida a little bit flummoxed here, thrown back a bit, Jake, even without any limbs.
Yeah, the trade's going a little bit in London's favor, so Florida gonna have to reset. Nice Maywall, but Nano still comes in. That's a nice self-destruct from Gargoyle, forces the Ana back. Krillin not able to output any heals.
And in the chaos, BQB now able to thrive, takes down Shui. Looking for a little more. Gargoyle sleeping on the job, but this is still great for the Mayhem. London doesn't really have to follow through on that at all. They've lost too many people in Glister. Oh, Glister, you're so far from home.
You can just read the communication. They're coming into BQB, looking for Glister, called out by his teammates. So Glister just getting constantly pressured here. Florida understand that they need to shut this player down to succeed, and that's exactly what the Florida Mayhem needed to do to get some chances on this third point. They were able to rush through second very, very quickly. Solid team fights, even if that first one took a while. They got it done in the end.
That's what you have to do after having a really tough point A. You have to rebound quickly on the point B. Now there's a chance to get the map completion.
However, the challenge is we're back to third point. This is where Widow will dominate once again. BQB on the McCree, dropping High Noon. Can be risky against a Widow. He's going to rely on the protection of his team.
He's looking for the Deadeye. Doesn't quite get the opportunity. London able to rotate around. Mayhem keeping up the pressure, but Glister on the Widow. Found the sight line. I feel like this is happening to Yaki a lot versus Glister. But he's had BQB with him, better with friends.
I mean, at these long ranges, Glister is just going to have opportunities. He's going to have chances to take your head, and you know, he's just been a player who's been so reliable in those moments. BQB going to go back to the Widowmaker, understanding that at this range, it's almost impossible to play McCree on Widow. She just has too big of an advantage, but Glister has the Infrasight up first, and with only a minute on the clock, limited opportunities for BQB to charge it. I like this from Glister, holding Infrasight as long as he can, slowing down the push from Florida Mayhem.
Spitfire in such a good position right now. 6 ultimates up, opening up with the Infrasight. Nothing is a secret. The Mayhem, though, Jake, they do have to move. They simply do not have the time. And now we have the Nano on the J-Mac. London get a little bit frisky. Florida looking to turn. Back the other way. They have to drop the Blizzard just to protect J-Mac. The beat comes out. Not time to save. Guard goes back with the shatter. In from J-Mac. That puts Florida in a tough spot.
keeping London alive there. That's so important. And Chris committing the sound barrier there, not getting anything out of it. Great shatter from JMac that really keeps his team alive. And at the maximum range, Widow sightline. Someone's going to have to outduel Glister. It'll have to be BQB, but Glister's just been dominating on this Widowmaker so far.
One good thing here for the Mayhem, though, Jake, they were able to drain a bunch of ults up. It's 20 seconds left remaining. They still need multiple fights, but they do have a chance as they head into this one. Spitfire looking to stop this right now. Now we look to the Mayhem. Yaki has the Blizzard at the ready. BQB on the side. Glister, the defensive Widow. Multiple threats on all ends, but now the fight begins. Yaki waiting, Crime moving forward under very heavy pressure. The Shatter ready to go. Gargoyle waiting. And now here we go. The beat's dropped by London. London's in and Yaki is down. Bernard with the connection over the top.
There's one from Glister as well, and now with the Infrasight, it's going to be rough for BQB to find an opening. Glister watching, waiting for his opportunity. Mirrored Infrasight.
He's looking for a little bit more, and oh, Florida, too much pressure. They can't stay on the point, and that just seemed tough, Jake, where Florida, they bounced back, but inevitably, London ended up with such an ultimate advantage. It just made things tough.
For me, this round was just heavily on Glister, just producing so much on first point, getting the time bank down to 0. If London made any mistake this round, I would say it's switching to the fast contest, trying to go all in on that point A hold. You know, with some more ultimates, who knows what could have happened on second point, but once you get to that third point, again, Glister's dominance in the Widow duel comes up as such a heavy impact play. Feels like he's charging these Infrasights so quickly. By the time BQB switches over to the Widow, Glister's already ready with the Infrasight, which is really the ultimate counter to an enemy Widow.
One of the key parts of Vana, the sight lines are good. That means if you do have a Widow threat, you can really flex it against the opposition. As Spitfire put themselves in a good spot to bring this to a map 5. However, Florida, should they put up an even better defense, they could run away with the series right now, 3-1.
It's going to have to be on first or second point more than likely, because I think once you get to that third point, Glister was going to go back on the Widow, and unless BQB can really step up his gameplay in the duel, that should be London Spitfire taking the map and potentially bringing us to map 5. So I think this series is far from over yet. London fighting back strong.
London, though, they still have to prove it on their attack. Nothing is guaranteed here on Havana. The Mayhem, Jake, they're taking the fight right to the Spitfire's front door.
BQB, though, learned his lesson. Gonna start off on the Widow, probably assuming that the duel is gonna come through, and Florida tried to hold at the spawn. A fight win here could be huge.
BQB already under a little bit of pressure. Glister using the Tracer as a pressure mechanism. Florida Mayhem right now, they took the fight to the front, but now they're finding themselves a little bit flanked.
A nice little surround here coming in from London. That's going to put a ton of pressure on BQB to hit some shots, but it's not easy at all. No shooting gallery here. He's got players, enemies on all sides.
Just when you think you have the other team trapped, no, it's London that's trapping Florida right now. And BQB ends up getting slept. A little bit of an opportunity. Glister wasn't able to go for it. No, okay, Ana, special delivered to Glister, but he doesn't want to go for it there, Jay.
Glister not finding enough on this Tracer, but they will get the payload moving, enough map control to force Florida Mayhem into a retreat. Although closing out this second point is going to be a bit tougher than moving past the first checkpoint, or the first choke point rather. BQB is now going to have a lot more defensible sight lines. It's going to be much harder for the Tracer to successfully execute a flank.
BQB looking for anything right now. Definitely a tougher job in front of BQB than Glister had just a round to go. More threats to worry about, more pressure on BQB, and oh man, BQB in real danger. That one, Bernard got to the back. Diva duel heading onto the back, and Bernard now pretty deep behind enemy lines. As Glister goes in, gets the stick. Goodbye, BQB.
BQB shut down, and now it's time for Glister to potentially reign supreme in the back line. Shatter comes in, but not finding anything, although the Blizzard from Yaki could be exactly what the Florida Mayhem needed.
The Blizzard, I think, has at least stalled things out a bit. Glister still threatening, but the Mayhem have far more numbers on the point. London, at the very least, will have to wait before fully committing again.
It's going to have to be a regroup, especially because Chris has a significant lead on that sound barrier. He's been getting more healing out as well. BQB back on the McCree, but more interestingly than that, we've got Yaki on the Tracer going to a desperation swap. So without a May, it's going to be tough for Karai to survive this Blizzard.
It could be JMac time, though. JMac dropping the Shatter, knocks down 2. He looked at the clock, but the barrier from Chris is enough to keep Gargoyle alive, enough to let him use self-destruct. Up and over it goes. He's going to get back into Mac. JMac, though, still put it on a decent tilt. Drill it. Gets caught. And the Mayhem turn the fight.
The full freeze comes into Karayan, but his team able to keep him alive. Buy time for Yaki to produce on that Tracer. Pulse Bomb comes through from Glister, but finds nothing, and it's going to be a full reset for the London Spitfire.
Jake, you highlighted it before the fight, but the barrier from Chris, so essential to negating that shatter coming in from JMac.
The challenge now, though, is that Mayhem, they find themselves on a bit of an awkward composition. This Tracer especially going to struggle with the sound barrier available for Sanguinar. It's going to be very easy for him to challenge. And again, a huge nano boost advantage for Krillin as well. So Forward ult's so crucial in breaking open these defensive holds.
Spitfire now have to worry about time. Only about a minute remaining. They can't get through point A. The series will be over. Yaki hanging out in the back. Under a bit of heavy pressure. Takes his time off. Man right now just draining the clock, Jake. But here we go, Bernard. The bomb to the back. Heavy pressure, Gargoyle took the brunt of it. BQB now super low. The Spitfire moving in, they use the beat and they're just pummeling Florida to a degree. But Yaki's making room, Yaki in the back. Got the bomb, but it still might not be enough. Shui, JMac, and Bernard just completely over the payload. It's making things tough.
Glister as well, just looking like a freak of nature when the nano boost is on him. Just headshot after headshot onto Karayan, keeping him so pressured, even with the defensive nano boost. So big props to Glister there, producing a ton of damage. But nice plays from Florida. I mean, stuck in a bit of an awkward composition with the McCree Tracer. They make it work and keep that harassment up. So London in a much the same situation that Florida found themselves in last round, except without the ultimate bank to snowball on.
Both teams very equivalent first round attacks and first round defenses here thus far. Spitfire perhaps in a slightly worse situation. BQB though getting low off the poke. Mayhem looking to assert defensive dominance, and the Spitfire just rotating around here, Jake.
The poke battle so important right now. Any advantage could immediately snowball into something more. BQB takes an icicle to the head, but he's still alive. Glister can't follow up. Ultimate does come in from Shui. Just caught Karayan in the corner.
Glister doing some work. BQB already down. Glister adds off the Deadeye. It's all Glister from here. Glister opening up the play, and that's exactly what the Spitfire needed to get through point B.
A quick triple kill, such a threat. London capping pretty much just as fast as Florida were able to, although Florida regrouping, trying to make a final contest happen, and they do have a lot of ultimates to support it.
This is high risk, high reward. If Florida goes back onto this point, their positioning will be bad. They have to compensate with ultimates as a result. We'll see how it goes. They drop the nano on the Karayan. London just gonna back out, let the nano time out. And this is smart from London. Mayhem looking to spend more resources. They drop the wall. They look for JMac. Bernard getting real low on the side. So is Glister under heavy pressure. Bernard is down. Glister healed back up. BQB over the top. They deal with JMac, and Florida's gamble pays off.
Such an important fight to take there. I really agree with Florida's decision. It is a bit risky, but you barely pushed it into that third point. So if you lose this second checkpoint, this map is almost as good as gone. It'll be extremely difficult to hold as aggressively on third as London were able to. So Florida, I like this decision. Keep second point alive. It's hold London here. Almost do or die here. Not necessarily, but very likely given how aggressive London were on third point.
Well, Florida gets another chance if they lose this fight. London likely does not. Once more, their series life on the line.
Krillin with the nano boost. That's their only real tool. Charging forward. A bit of miscommunication there. Blizzard comes in to stifle the nano boost. JMac throws it up, but Beat keeping him alive.
That's such a crucial beat. Let's Krillin stay alive. Deal with Yaki. JMac still in the fight moving forward. And let's not forget, it's Glister. It's the back. The Deadeye is up. And it gets Karayan. This is great for London. Glister unchained. And the Spitfire get point B.
And I said it before, I think now that London have capped this point, we're almost certainly headed to a map 5. They stifled Florida Mayhem completely on their defense. They don't have far to push it. This golden box of victory right around the corner. So Yaki hiding. This could be very, very risky, but it could also pay off big time.
There's no Blizzard waiting here. This is just a May and her icicle gun. Endothermic blaster.
BQB though back on the Widow. Yaki immediately pressured by Glister, forced the ice block. Wall comes in but hasn't found anything yet. BQB needs to produce here.
Florida, all or nothing. They drop the Shatter. JMac though, Shatter the other side. Neither Shatter doing a whole lot. BQB, meanwhile, decent sightline here on Widow. London, more in danger. Either Brian being down. Florida holding their own, but Glister's up on one side. BQB, danger on the other. It's Glister that's taking down Florida back on the point. BQB, do you have the answer?
It's so tough to hold here, especially with that pickup from Glister. There's no tanks left to contest point. It has to be the Lucio. No one finds any picks yet, but Glister so sharp in these clutch moments on McCree. They do it.
London says we're going to a map 5. Glister taking matters into his own hands. BQB not enough to contain. That is the definition of a hero play.
Glister just looking so devastating in the clutch. One of those players who just turns it up to 11, becomes even stronger when his back is against the wall. That's the mark of a superstar. Excited to see more from the London Spitfire.
So London continuing beat the team that simply will not fall. Another map 5 for London. If you're a Florida fan, that should be scary. How will it all resolve? Find out soon.
The Overwatch League is brought to you by ZipChair Gaming, the official chair supplier of the Overwatch League.
One thing's for sure, here in Houston, the Spitfire do not fall easily, because you take a look at the last map, the Spitfire, they've brought things back, and this is just what the Spitfire does this season. They give the enemy team hope before they take it away. I'm ZP here with Jake, and Jake, we are heading into a map 5 between the Mayhem and the Spitfire.
Just disgusting stuff, frankly, across the board. Glister and Bernard, for me, both producing massive results. Bernard always on the flank, always keeping his team alive, but Glister is the hammer to the rest of his team's anvil, just slamming it home time after time after time, finding these headshots in the clutch moments when the pressure is highest. That's the mark of a superstar, a player who's going to go far in this league.
I think for me, when I look at the team fights, I go, is it over yet? Is Glister still alive? It's not over. You can't call the team fight. Glister has brought so many things back for London over and over again that if you're the other team, you cannot breathe easy while he is still in the game.
And it feels like this whole series long, the game for the Florida Mayhem has been try to shut down Glister, try to put the pressure on him. You can't go too all in on this player, though, because he plays in position. He's playing intelligently. He's not going to overextend and flank, take these huge risks. He knows, he's so confident in his aim, he can sit at the back, play at long range. He's still going to find the damage. He's still going to find the headshot. So you need to come to him, and that's a tall order against the London Spitfire.
I think it's what makes the London Spitfire so chaotic at the same time, where you don't know what Glister's going to do. Does he do a hero play every single time? No, but he wins fights that should be over, and he constantly does this for this team easily. One of the brightest spots about the roster, and a great pickup overall.
Definitely, he's coming up huge in a lot of these big moments, getting the pickups, but for me, what I'm so impressed by is I think all the McCree players that I like the most watching this patch, they've all been these players who are willing to play conservative, willing to stay in the back line. they aren't taking huge risks. I mean, we've seen the Jerry style work out a little bit, but I just don't think it's fully successful against these most dominant teams where everyone is clearing their corners, everyone is properly checking those flanks. Those risks often don't pay off and can cost your team heavily if you go down. So these players staying in the back line, comfortable with the long-range duels, it's a more difficult way to play McCree, less reliant on your cooldowns, more reliant on raw mechanical skill. But if that skill is there, you can really deliver for your squad in terms of damage, eliminations, and just outlasting the enemy team in these long fights.
We're talking about the squad, we're talking about London. We do have a substitution here, the rare, not so often seen map 5 substitution. Bernard is out. It's McCleston coming in. It's an interesting choice. We'll see if it works out.
Yeah, very surprising to me. Bernard playing well this whole series. So to me, this is less of a confidence swap. It's got to be for some sort of strategic purpose. So we'll see if London sort of throws a curveball here in map 5 that can be very effective, but it is a big gamble. Sometimes it can really hurt. And not every player can come online in map 5 not being able to play in the series before.
Well, that's exactly what I'm about to ask you, is that from a player point of view, how does it feel where you don't really get a chance to warm up and you just get thrown in and say, hey, it's map 5, it's do or die, you got to win this for us?
I mean, this is a true test of a player's mentality. More than a long series, just coming in cold, map 5, you need to be very confident, you need to be very well practiced, and just find a way to slip back into your team's cohesion. You know, if there's been anything that's been adapted throughout the series, any adjustments you've been making to deal with the enemy squad, you're going to have to catch up really quick. And, you know, there's not many mistakes to be made on control. You lose that first capture point, things can go wrong very, very quickly, and Florida Mayhem have proven adept on control.
Florida Mayhem in general have proven very adept this entire series, where particularly their tanks and their supports have been very, very impressive to me thus far. Gangnam Jin constantly hitting great bio nades. Of course, Gargoyle a constant threat. But Oasis is where we are going to be settling this one. Both teams with 2 map wins, but it'll only be one team that ends up with 3.
For me, Oasis is a pretty exciting map to go to because I do feel that Glister's been pretty dominant on the Widow, but this is a map where we're really just not going to see too much Widowmaker. The range is quite short in a lot of these map types, so it's going to be really, really rough to bring out a Widowmaker. Very, very unlikely, I think. I like this from Florida, though, already setting up on a dive composition. I do hope they bring this to bear. This has been one of their most successful strategies, working out on Horizon, on Ilios, and I hope it works out again here on Oasis. I want to see more dive in this meta.
We'll see if it works out. Of course, they could swap right up until the gates open, but it does appear like Yaki will be in on the Doomfist. So we do have some disparity between the teams. The compositions are going to run. Florida, very divey here, Jake.
Yaki's initiation is going to be so important here, but we see all of the London Spitfire taking that cubby room, just leaving their Ryan and May out on the point to poke aggressively. This backline is going to be so difficult to get on top of, but London giving it their best shot, trying to survive the dive.
Bunch of J-Mac right in the back. The heals are there. Team Chiropractor on call. And now the Mayhem waiting for their opportunity. They dive in once more, and Yaki punished. Dove into the room of death.
Weston getting that first pick on D.Va, but J-Mac traded back, and it's first control for Florida Mayhem. So this dive map control really proving very important here. Control ticking up for Florida. London, they're going to have to take an action soon, and without a main tank, it could be risky.
London not really taking advantage of the time that Yaki was down. Yaki already back in the fight. Blister getting decent damage, but not much in the way of full pickoffs. Now we look to Gangnam Jin, gonna drop the nano on the Cryon, just going into the room. This is one way not to be fearful, especially with the promos up. Time to knock some people around, and Cryon doing just that.
Riot just beating his opponents down, and the control point has been ticking up this whole time. That's so important. The counter pick onto J-Mac, and as you said, with Yaki on the Doomfist, his rollout is so quick, so even though he goes down, because he puts so much damage onto J-Mac with the Rocket Punch, the follow-up is through, and Yaki is back far earlier into the fight, so creating spawn advantage out of nothing by running fast characters.
And the crazy thing here, the man, they do this even with the Sombra, they drop the EMP and the bomb. Glister pays the price. Not quite the full bounty they would have liked, but enough to buy time.
I mean, one pick is all you need to reset the enemy team. London Spitfire is playing composition where they really do not want to be pushing in 5v6. They want to be grouped, swarming as a death ball, but it's so exposed on point. How are you going to cap with this Reaper?
Well, Reinhardt charge versus Doomfist. Reinhardt gonna win. Sanguinar there in the follow through. London Spitfire doing a good job of dealing with the Doomfist. Now we'll see if they can actually get the point.
It was a risky gambit from Yaki, not paying off at all, so good on J-Mac checking his corners there, finding the mutual knockdown, and the cleanup is there, of course, from the deathball strategy of London. They have a huge advantage when both players are knocked down. Yaki finds a pick, but I don't think this is going to be too impactful. Sanguinar going to be very quick back to the fight, and a lot of ultimates now up for the London Spitfire. That risky forward play from the Florida Mayhem might end up costing them dearly.
You know, I think back to yesterday, I think J-Mac just has a sixth sense when the Doomfist is hanging in, because he does charge into rocket punches quite a bit for the better.
Yeah, that's usually what you want to do. The Doomfist, of course, with so much less HP, it's harder for him to survive on the ground.
So now the Spitfire in control, the Mayhem potentially just one fight away. Might be a little bit closer than that. Mayhem, though, they do have time, and they are taking that time right now, Jake.
Yeah, I think they're waiting for BQB's EMP. They're going to initiate with the Nano Boost onto Karayan. Want to finish off his final rage, and it looks like he's getting close to it.
The Nano ended up on Yaki instead, and now we'll see if Yaki can make the most of it. The Blizzard Eden Gargoyle deals with London's control, but Yaki ends up getting out-dueled in the back. J-Mac was there. London not out of the fight at all. J-Mac can be coming back in. Shatter is ready in the Mayhem, losing a lot of key pieces.
Trying to commit with Yaki there, doesn't end up working out. He was so close to taking down Sanguinar, but Sanguinar able to survive despite the hack on top of him. And Florida, it looks like they're going to swap their entire composition, going to a classic McCree style. What I will say, though, is with the Ana, with the McCree, I do think they have an advantage over this Reaper Moira. Reaper Moira rushing into a McCree can be a death sentence against that flashbang.
I think it puts a lot of pressure onto J-Mac to land a good shatter here, where Mayhem might have the better neutral setup, but Spitfire, they do have some key ults.
They're going to try and catch out Karayan before he can make it to the high ground, but the defensive wall from Yaki should keep him up for just enough time. Gangnam Jim as well, though, caught up in the flank, so a bit of a separation. Nice play from London.
BQB can't get away. Shui able to finish it off. And now the Mayhem truly one last fight, and they might have to go in before they're a full six. McCree, he's not exactly fast.
I think they'll have no choice, and Glister hiding right below where the enemy team needs to initiate from. This Death Blossom could be deadly. BQB not there to drop the stun.
They're waiting. They're really just trying to buy time for BQB. Glister, though, not waiting for it. Goes for the Death Blossom, booped on back, but it's still a lot of damage on the Karayan, and he can't get away. Karayan falling. Krillin, the Coalescence in the back. The Spitfire maintaining their advantage. And the Mayhem running out of time, and oh no, you hate to see that one happen. The bomb into the pit.
Just trying to stall is Gargoyle, but there should be no way to win this. All 6 players still alive for London, most of them quite healthy, so Blizzard just ends the round solidly in London's favor. There were a couple moments where it seems like Mayhem, they had just inches from taking those fights, just so close to making it happen, but London just too cohesive with the May Reaper. I like the McCree swap coming in from Florida Mayhem, but just too little too late, and the aggression from London not allowing Florida to take the high ground and have free poke. They initiate first, they pressure the McCree out, and the pickoff comes in from Shui.
Now, Jake, we know the London script. It's tired. It's like an old Scooby-Doo episode right now, where London, it's more likely than not that they're going to mystically just not win this round. They're going to give Florida fans the maximum amount of hope before dashing it away. We've seen it. It's tired. It's old. London, get a new anything.
This is going to be really exciting, though, because we're going to be coming back to this classic strategy, although this time with Kleston instead of Bernard. So we'll see that he's able to shut down BQB just the same as his counterpart. So far, he wins the trade, getting position on high ground. London looking to be in dominant position on the map so far.
Florida trying to be aggressive over the top. Both teams fight for the high ground. BQB ends up falling immediately. So the Spitfire starting out stronger than expected. It's going to be a quick first control.
Those small details so important because London gets that first position on the high ground. Even when the Florida Mayhem swarm out forward, they're just coming into the waiting arms of Sanguinar, booping off BQB, and that just spells the end of the fight instantly. Good call by the rest of the Mayhem to retreat, not feed their HP, but London with first control, this is a big advantage. It's hard to evict the enemies off the high ground here.
Particularly when you're dealing with McCree May, where you can just wall off the ways over to the top. It's a big defensive advantage. It's something that Florida wants to crack before ultimates truly come into play.
Florida gonna force point, but immediately dropping in are J-Mac and the London Spitfire.
They're looking for it. Yaki falling early. Mayhem couldn't really get a good foothold, and now feeding the ultimate. Gargoyle was going in expecting it to be a full 6-on-6. And Karayan gets J-Mac.
Massive solo play there, but it's gonna cost him his life, and control just ticking up for London, so if this fight doesn't go Mayhem's way, it's going to be costly. Another huge wall from Shui, cutting off these choke points.
London is brawling this very effectively right now. The Mayhem ending up staggering. It's not what you want. The Spitfire now at 47%, and the Mayhem are in danger.
These fights are close, but Shui is showing why first control is so impactful. These chokes being pressured so aggressively at the May walls. J-Mac forced the point, though, by the capture pressure from Florida Mayhem.
Looking for it. Glister wins the McCree versus McCree. Shui Infirm Patrol here, gonna drop the Blizzard. Eden! Gargoyle on top of it, but I don't think that's gonna be enough with Cryan down. The Mayhem, they've suffered a little bit too much. Blizzard, eat or no. Blister getting a diva in his face, but the support is there. He's gonna live.
Oh, and the sleep as well coming in. Gonna put Florida Mayhem on a last fight situation when Gargoyle is eventually able to reset. This delay is so important as we're getting over 80%.
All right, we'll see if London heard me, if now they're changing the script to a clean round victory here, or they're really going for maximum hope breaking. Florida, you got one more attempt to try and turn this one around.
And Klesson has been really feeling the big shoes left by Bernard, looking very clean, polished on this diva, keeping the pressure on the backline. But finally, Mayhem have an ult bank advantage. Question is, can they leverage it against this high ground position?
They're gonna look for it. The Blizzard in on the other side. Kleston eats Yaki's Blizzard, taking some hope away from Mayhem. They have to beat earlier as a result. Gargoyle throws it out. J-Mac holding onto the Shatter. Same with Karaya. The Nano on the J-Mac is out. J-Mac drops the Shatter. Knocks down no one. Gargoyle to the back. The bomb, what's it gonna do? Cryan is down. The bomb does little. And the Spitfire now trying to fight this back. BQB though, working on the flank. Gargoyle pressuring Blister on the top. And the Mayhem just maybe might get this one.
Heroics from BQB finding a few crucial pickoffs, but everyone contributing, getting the flip for the Florida Mayhem. But at this point, no mistakes left in the tank. One flip is going to secure this round for the London Spitfire. So Shui does have the Blizzard, but Gangnam Jin with the Nano Boost means that you're not going to be able to succeed with just a Blizzard on one unless you've got a ton of damage and isolation. The question is, how can London flip the ultimate advantage back in their favor?
It's going to be difficult, but on the same note, Mayhem must be perfect. No one can get picked off early. They must manage their ultimate economy and keep the high ground here. Spitfire look for a way in.
BQB at 1 HP. He's so low. Barely survives.
Goes for the Deadeye, trying to create a little bit more space. The Spitfire, diving over, Cryan gets Nano, deep into the Spitfire, takes down Shui. And it's aggressive defense here from Mayhem, but so far working out.
BQB drops so low there, but somehow survives, and I think that kind of baited London Spitfire in, and they get punished by Gangnam Jin's Nano onto Karaya, charging back in and swinging on those opponents. But London able to charge up a lot of ultimates in that team fight. They're going to have a bit of advantage in this next one.
So you look at the Mayhem right now, they are at a disadvantage. Spitfire coming in the fight that will likely decide the round. How does Florida play it?
Gangnam Jin hiding in the lobby room. Could work out big, but it looks like London's going to take an entirely different path, so shouldn't be impactful at all here. Blizzard from Yaki, though, he's been so sick on this maze so far in the series. Nade comes in. That might slow London down just for a moment.
London right now, a little bit more progress on the point. And Glister finds BQB! That could have been the difference maker. He's slumped to the side. Maybe they can even it out, take down Glister before he wakes up. You gotta deal with them, one would think. J-Mac though finds Cryan. Florida in danger, but now Gargoyle deals with Glister, deals with Kleston. Gargoyle, fight the team on his back, is blocked with two! Gargoyle, the hero Florida needs.
J-Max striking back, but it's actually anybody's game. This fight is going to be crazy. Both teams switching back to fast heroes, trying to get that contest popping, but the May force the ice block quickly. BQB on the Tracer, can he get it done?
This is how you know it's serious. The Tracers are out. Both teams fighting tooth and nail. Yaki, the bicycle to Glister. A big play. That's what Florida needed. Cryan, the Nano just in time. Cryan is about to fall. Gangnam Jin saves his life. But now they're down Yaki. They're down to May. BQB working on the outskirts. Glister going to be back soon. Cryan drops the Shatter. But J-Mac does a little bit more off the Nano. Cryan's out of the fight. Yaki emergency Doomfist. And this is a brawl.
It's a superior sound barrier from Sanguinar that keeps London alive and strong. Glister takes down Chris, limiting the healing, limiting the resources as the spike goes long. London in dominant position to take this map and the series.
London, look at the Glister once more. They take the series 3-2. Yet another map 5 victory for the Spitfire. They can't keep getting away with it, Jake. We keep seeing it, then they keep winning.
That was just a little too close for comfort to the normal London Spitfire script. Thought Florida was going to be able to bring that round back, but Sanguinar just in time with the sound barrier, keeping his team alive, and that boost of energy, keeping them all up. They did a great job surviving, grouping up with all their teammates, despite getting picked off a few times in that final fight.
Got to give it up for Gargoyle at the very end, though. Very close to bringing that back for Florida. Huge mechanical play, even bigger ultimate. Just wasn't enough. Came down to Tracer play at the end, and Glister, when London needed him most, arrived once more.
What an incredibly close series. I don't know if we've seen a series that close all season long. Every single map, it felt like going the distance. Incredibly close fights, striking back and forth. Many players on both teams succeeding. You can't ask for better Overwatch than that.
It was great. It was a back and forth series. And right now, pound for pound, you want a good Overwatch series? You watch London Spitfire. They put on a show.
Every single time. And, you know, the scripts may be getting a little old at this point. We're always going to map 5.
Well, of course, to give us a little bit more insight, we got the man himself, Wolf, on the floor with Shui.
Thank you very much, ZP. I'm here with Shui of the London Spitfire, and of course, Robin is here to help me translate. So, first of all, congratulations on your win in a close game 5 there. So last year, we had Vancouver Titans coming in as the first generation of Runaway players. This year, you're part of the second generation of Runaway joining the Overwatch League. How does it feel to be here in front of an Overwatch League fan crowd, a Western crowd, finally as a league player?
되게 기쁘고 많은 팬분들이 와주셔서 정말 감사하고, 물론 홈스탠드를 왔다 갔다 계속 다니긴 하지만 그래도 많은 사람들을 보고 더 재밌는 경기 많이 할 수 있어서 좋습니다. 그리고 런던에서도 꼭 경기 하고 싶습니다.
So it's been definitely an incredible experience coming into the Overwatch League, playing in front of a massive audience. I didn't really expect to be able to play in front of this many people this soon. It has been a little bit tiring moving away from homestand to homestand, but I'm really, really looking forward to be able to play in London in front of our home crowd.
It's good to hear that. So the second question, kind of related, how was it playing against your former teammates in Gangnam Jin and Yaki today?
좀 이상한 느낌이었지만 그래도 전에 같은 팀이었던 만큼 더 때리기 좋았던 것 같은 네 그런 것 같아요.
It definitely felt a little bit weird playing against them on stage, but since they were my former teammates, it felt good to hit them in their heads.
And I think everybody who has former teammates knows that feeling. My last question is a little bit more technical. A lot of analysts are wondering right now the reason why London Spitfire is sometimes running Bernard, sometimes running Kleston, swapping them out oftentimes. Do you have any insight to that? Anything you could share with us?
제 생각에는 전략도 전략인데 플레이 스타일인 면에서 좀 차이가 있어서 교체를 한다고 생각합니다.
So I think it's because they definitely do have technical differences, but more so because the player playstyle is a little different and is suitable for particular maps against particular teams.
Thank you. Finally get to get a little bit of insight on that, and finally London Spitfire gets to have an interview in front of a homestand crowd. Congratulations again, London Spitfire and Shui. And we're going to take it back to the casting desk.
Gotta love it. That's our Coca-Cola victory moment. And Jake, you're the one that called it. Teammates love taking down former teammates.
There's no better feeling. I mean, when you play together, especially when you find success on an old team, everyone wants to have that feeling that they were the real reason that the team succeeded, you know, and especially those close friends of yours. There's no better feeling than, you know, as he said, hitting them in the head, taking them down a notch, showing that you're the boss. You know, like among friends, that's the hottest competition of all.
You're just radiating such pure, genuine joy. But you know what else we have joy for? Glister. What a player for the Spitfire this entire series. Of course, he's our player of the match. Close call between him and Bernard, but Glister, the heroics were too much to deny.
Man, this Widow is so sharp. Glister's been one of those players making it work, electing to pick it over the McCree many times. Also looked great on the Tracer, but when his McCree does come out, it's just as deadly. That's the thing about this player. You can't count him out no matter what his hero pick is. He's finding the headshots, dealing the damage. That's such an impactful thing to have on your team. The confidence that your main DPS is just going to outplay the other.
No fight is over as long as Glister is still alive. That is the notice that the Spitfire put out to the league, and it's something you gotta respect if you're going up against London. Also, probably plan for 5 maps, because that just seems to always happen.
Gosh, that's a pretty insane elims over Des here this match by Glister, proving a hard target to take down, but still deadly, not baiting his team, still putting out that damage, contributing heavily, striking that perfect balance in this patch.
So, of course, London continuing on. I'm not going to quite say it dominance, but they're gritty. They get wins when it counts.
hey, I mean, you go to map 5, you're not having the perfect map score, but what matters most is series wins, and getting it done at the end of the day, that's what's going to count come playoff time, especially if London keeps playing this well. I don't think it's going to come down to map score for him.
No, definitely not, and at the end of it, wins are what matters, but you know what matters more, especially to this hometown crowd? That's right, coming up next, it's going to be the Houston Outlaws taking on the Toronto Defiant.